This episode sponsored by She's Birdie. Every woman knows that feeling, and She's Birdie knows it too. The just in case feeling. Just in case I hear something. Just in case someone tries the door. Just in case I need to wake up fast. It's not fear, it's awareness. And Birdie Box from She's Birdie was made for exactly that. Birdie Box is a portable travel door alarm designed by She's Birdie for hotels, dorms, Airbnbs, and anywhere you're staying away from home. It installs in seconds on the door frame, and if the door is opened, it activates a loud siren and flashing strobe to help draw attention instantly. She's Birdie, because peace of mind should check in with you. Birdie Box by She's Birdie. Visit shesbirdie.com. That's SHESBIRDIE.com. And order your Birdie Box before your next stay away from home.
Here we are in the challenging times of the year, and thank you. May God bless you. And, I think that we should start the morning with a prayer. And perhaps a prayer for peace, perhaps a prayer for everyone who is having to deal with these crazy, extreme weather conditions, for everything that is going on here with just the air that we're breathing. Think about this when we're looking at the air that we're breathing and just how bad it is. And I got to tell you, and I don't say this to rub it in, I was very, very blessed a couple weeks ago to go on vacation. And, again, vacations are a little challenging now. It's funny, and it's the ebb and the flow. And I say this as someone who, I wish I didn't have to say this to you. Enjoy the good times, because sometimes, even when you don't think the good times are good economically, they really are in comparison to things. And nothing really helps your perspective more than when you have challenging times. And I think that we all do that. And, whether it's medical or, physical, whether it's family or what have you. And, a couple weeks ago, I'm at the Pacific Coast, and I don't know, maybe I've kind of figured out the purpose of vacations. To me, it's like the fantasy life. It's good to get away, but you have to come back and you keep things in perspective. And then when you come back, I'm one of those people that I like to put things off. So for me, I would be taking this week off or next week off. And then when I would get there, I'd think to myself, well, maybe you're like this as well. You're thinking to yourself, well, I should have gone earlier, because now, it's the end of the season and we're, everything is, closed up and everybody's tired. You should have gone earlier. You never can really win. My point being, though, that no matter when you take your vacation, if you took it when I did 2 weeks ago, or if you took it last week, the weather here still stinks. This is about the worst I've seen it in quite some time. And I was, listening to the people on, Channel 7 this morning, and they're going, it's bad going here, it's bad going there, it's just plain bad. There's not much you can say about it. There's really not much you can say or do when you're looking at just going in outside. And there are some people that have to work outside, and I would hope and I would pray that their employer realizes just how challenging this is, realizes how tough this is. And, I understand the work has to be done, but if possible, stay indoors. And I know for a lot of people that isn't possible. For a lot of people, that just isn't the way that it goes. So we'll do our very best to give you the coverage. Not really much to say. It was a very lively presidential speech on Friday, but let me just bow my heads. Don't bow your head if you're driving, but just please pray along with me. Lord, we are so appreciative of the world that you've given us, so appreciative of the life that we have in Idaho, through the good times and the bad, through the challenges, through the victories. We ask that you please protect those that go outside, those that have to deal with the heat, those that rescue us, and those that are here to inspire us, whether we're old or young, or challenged or blessed. Lord, please bless us and protect us, and those that need you the most. And we, in your name, in Jesus' name we pray, amen. And I mean that wholeheartedly when I think about just how bad it's going to be. And for me, and I don't want to say that I have, a breathing condition, but it seems like you do. I look, I went to my Fred Meyer's, I went to Albertsons, and I went for a walk Saturday. And Saturday wasn't as bad as yesterday, but apparently we're going to, condition red, going to be condition red for quite some time, I suppose. So please be very, very careful as we move along. The phone number's here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. What are we going to begin with? What else is there to begin with but the President of the United States telling people how he really felt about the media? And if you didn't watch it, if you tuned out of politics, stay tuned, buckle up, little buddies. This is going to be very big. This is going to be something that you haven't heard of. We've collected his best clips, and we're going to do our very best to give you those clips again and again and again, because it is just something that you need to react to in real time. And how do you do that? Well, the first and the primary way we like to do that is by giving us a call at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And we really want to hear what you have to say. We also have a couple of things rolling. We take a look at where we are when we're talking about the world that we live in. We've got a possible government shutdown coming up. We've got, again, a story we brought you Friday. Highway 21 closure continues to affect travel. What happened at Highway 21? A mudslide has forced the closure of Highway 21 near Stanley, with officials warning that additional rain could delay reopening. The closure is affecting people that are going on vacation, campers, and businesses during the height of the summer travel season. Also, and CNN brought this up, they did a story on the flock cameras, and there's a rebellion going on with flock cameras. Now, there's an old joke about Idaho that if something is hot in the rest of the country, give us 5 years or 10 years, and we will take a look at that. So we'll see how that plays out as well. But without further ado, we go to the President of the United States. And, some people are going to rip him. And for me personally, I'm going, ooh, this is something. But clearly, this is a guy, the President of the United States, that has really nothing to lose. And unlike anybody else, he's going to say it. Now, if you're a critic of the president, you're going to go, why did he do this? If you're a person who loves the president and you're not down with the media, well, then you're going to cheer this on. But whether you were Caitlin Collins, whether you were Chris Christie, whether you were the media people, whether you were anybody else, it was pretty wild. And then you have some people like Caitlin Collins and others. It was wild. And then you had people that were, how should we put this, that were reacting to it in real time, which if you did react to it in real time, it was something that, how should I put this? Well, when he put on his hat for the third term, it was pretty wild.
To be here at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, amazing people, a lot of people that I like. Some I don't like at all, but I respect most of them. I must say that you do a great job, amazing job, and it's an honor. As I said 3 months ago, the show must go on. We were backstage, and we both wanted to just have it go on, whether it was 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, it didn't matter. But in the end, it made more sense to do it the way we're doing it. And we had a great news conference at the White House, in a very important room. And you did very well. I think we all did very well. It was a hell of an evening, I can tell you that. Won't soon be forgotten. And I think a lot was learned from that evening. A tremendous amount was learned about security and about other things, the dangers of what we all do. But just like my presidency, the second time is always better. It's always better. And the third time will be better yet. I'm only kidding.
No, he wasn't. And it was one of those things where, and I'd love for people to describe it if you haven't heard it. It is amazing. The good, the bad, and the ugly, where he actually starts ripping the speech. He he actually starts ripping the speech writers, and he can't believe that people wrote this. And he puts on a hat. He puts on a hat. Trump 2028. It's something that will be defined for quite some time. Pardon me. So what do we have to start with? As you just heard, the air quality is oppressively bad. I want to thank everybody who turned out yesterday for Idaho Patriot Thunder. Ran into a lot of great people there. And it was amazing. Just, again, the commitment to the community. Saw Senator Risch, who I guess he was there to cheer people on. It was always great that, one year I think we had the governor. We had Senator Risch. Nice to see him there. But it was very tough, very challenging, and maybe that's why my voice is a little raw this morning, where people were just, doing their very best. So thank you to all the people that contributed, all the people that did their very best, all their people that joined us, and certainly the folks at High Desert Harley Davidson for joining us. So the reaction to the media was pretty wild at 580-5436, 580-KIDO was very, how should we put this, very wild when we had just the speech Friday night. And maybe you're like me, you're going, well, there's no NBA, there's no WNBA, there's no anything to watch anymore. So what am I going to watch? I'm going to watch the president at the Correspondents' Dinner. And he unloaded on the people. And, one of the things about this administration is when you attack them, they attack back. And they attack back with full vim and vigor and everything else. So one of the more creative thoughts of the night was this one.
Press here in one place. I have to say that we're having an amazing load of accomplishments that the media never talks about. For example, under my administration, a once feared and powerful regime that relentlessly attacked America has finally been toppled. Their former leaders have been removed, and they're now being run by a gay dictator facing internal divisions. But I, for one, wish Barry Weiss all the best at CBS News. She's a wonderful woman. Most of the press lives here in Washington, D.C. And
okay, so again, that was a big one there with the president. And he, that went over like a lead balloon at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. The president was in rare form. They were asking him about LeBron James and Michael Jordan.
Where do you stand on LeBron versus Michael Jordan as the best ever?
well, Michael Jordan's a guy that's a friend of mine. Play golf with him. He's a really good guy. And I think LeBron is, maybe he's a racist, but maybe he doesn't like Trump. I don't know. I only like people that like me. So I would say Michael Jordan all the way.
One more time, we'll give you this. So this was Friday before the press conference. It was the President of the United States calling LeBron a racist. Probably not going to endear himself with the millennial crew, not going to endear himself with a lot of people. People are going to go, well, why did he do this? Because he is Donald John Trump, and he just does whatever he wants. This is the magic of President Trump. This is what people voted for. And you have a lot of people that more than likely have said to themselves, you know, I agree with him. Now, they would never say that out loud, but you do have people that maybe they think these things and they think to themselves, okay, we'll just do our own thing and let the president speak for us. Does that help the president at all? Does that move the conversation? Does that empower his critics? You would think that the way the president has continued to provoke and prod people, that their neuroreceptors would be out. But apparently not. So we're going to hear more of the speech, which if you haven't heard it, this is going to be the highlight of your day. And as I said before, please be very careful. This is Idaho. We care about one another, even the loons. If you've got to work outside today, please pace yourself because it is a doozy, and apparently it's going to be a doozy for quite some time. Perhaps we should just take videos of this again and again and again. Take videos of this and pretty much share it with everybody about why you shouldn't move to Idaho, why Wyoming this time of year is really nice, why we should not only encourage people to move to Wyoming, but, not only that, but perhaps the state of Washington. They could stay there and you could get taxed. Oh, that's right. They're burning up as well. But the air is excessively bad here. So once again, please be very, very careful on this one. More of the president's speech. We'd love to get your reaction as we roll along. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO.
On receiving her award, it was all about me. It's a fake. She shouldn't get the award. It was a fake, but I didn't mind. I said, Caitlin, congratulations. But it was fake. There's no question about it. But she's a young, attractive woman. She never smiles. I said, Caitlin, do you have a smile? Smile. You have a nice position. You're at CNN Fake News. You should be a happy person. So smile, Caitlin. Just smile. But we attack, and I thought Caitlin had really made it big with a major new sponsorship. But then
Now, by the way, good morning. You're listening to Kevin Miller at 580 KIDO. The air quality is very bad. Also, regionally, 3 killed, 4 injured in a Seattle center shooting. We'll tell you a little bit more about that coming up. Craziness going on in Seattle, then people jumping off the Space Needle. Don't mean to bury the lead, but if you're just tuning in and you were doing something Friday night, maybe going out to dinner, maybe trying to water the lawn, maybe trying to get away from politics, well, you missed a doozy. Here is President Trump lowering the boom on Caitlin Collins of CNN at 580 KIDO.
informed her that it wasn't her on the Bud Light can. It was Dylan Mulvaney. And Dylan Mulvaney cost Bud Light $35 billion in market cap. That was the worst commercial ever made, by the way, for those few people that want to hear that. Most people don't care, but I would. I wouldn't want to hire Dylan anytime soon.
So, by the way, he's accused Caitlin Collins of being Dylan Mulvaney. One person that will be hopefully joining us this week, we don't want to speak for him today, is Jared Halpern of Fox News Radio. We were supposed to have him on last week, but as I looked up at the monitor, I go, Bo, he is going to be there for the president's news conference. As much as we would love Jared Halpern to say, no, I'm not going to go to the Oval Office. I'm not going to sit there with the microphone and ask President Trump questions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to Kevin Miller. No, he decided not to, and I get that. So that is one of the more flame-throwing comments, but this one was the biggest one of the night, I think.
Between California's policies of enabling wildfires, paying drug addicts to be homeless, giving free sex changes to illegals, and telling rich people they're going to take away, all of your money is going to be taken away. People are fleeing, and they're fleeing in droves. We can't have that in this country. It's becoming such a horrible and dangerous location that Ilhan Omar, one of my favorites, and her brother are thinking about moving together, very much in love.
Oh, yes. He went there.
The video has surfaced recently of Ilhan giving a speech referring to World War II as World War XI. And they asked her about that. She thought she got it right. But I'm not surprised because she's a low IQ person. And she's also a very dishonest person. And she ought to get the hell out of our country. She shouldn't be here. She shouldn't be in our country. She also calls her brother husband number one. Omar is reportedly being investigated for fraud. She revised her net worth. I was shocked to see that she was worth much more than $30 million. And then when the press got on her, she revised it slightly downward to less than 18,000. So she went from much more than 30 million to 18,000.
So the president of the United States, again, we'll repeat these things because they're just so delicious, at 580-5436, 580 KIDO. Now, again, this was written, I think, by the guy Kill Tony, allegedly, or someone of that nature. You can tell the method. He's not giving an olive branch to these people when he calls Caitlin Collins Dylan Mulvaney and then goes toe-to-toe with Ilhan Omar, calling her first husband, brother. As I said, the president, took no prisoners here. Now, again, at 580-5436-580-KIDO, this was for show. This was to see if he could get a rise out of people, and he did, especially with this one.
I'm pleased to announce my intention to, and this is somewhat of a scoop, my intention to run for a fourth term as President of the United States. I will be doing that. I will be having an official, in fact, I think I have, I won 3 times. Now I'm going to do it again.
I don't know what the deal is with his, but now I'm going to do it again. But anyway, you're never going to hear this from anybody else but President Trump. And I do agree with him. Enjoy it while it lasts. Enjoy him while he lasts.
Thank you. I'm going to do it. Should be easy. I'm getting very good at running for president. No, I won 3 times, did very well the second time, by the way. It's a rigged election, but we don't have to talk about it.
By the way, it's funny. He's got a big red hat, Trump 2028, and I'm sure it was flooded with everybody just buying those things online afterwards. By the way, this portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Window World Boise. Got some window issues? Now is the time to take care of them. We're talking about making sure you have that proper seal on your windows, especially with the bad air going in right now. Replacement windows installed at $985 each or $8 for $191 over 48 months. Limited time only, 0% interest for 18 months at windowworldboise.com. Locally and veteran owned, whether you're looking for windows, patio doors, siding, entry doors, they can take care of you. Proudly made in America. We look at, our exterior. We want to make sure that we're saving as much money now more than ever with the high energy prices. And that's where Window World Boise comes in. They don't pressure you. Just give them a call at 614-3188. That's 614-3188. windowworldboise.com. They'll take care of your windows as they took care of mine. Really appreciate those guys on Chinden. Local, like I said, they're right there. You can see their office and their vehicles right on Chinden. More of the president, more of your reaction. Yes, we're still at war. 580-5436-580-KIDO. So we have the gay dictator toppled at CBS News. We have Caitlin Collins being referred to as Dylan Mulvaney, Ilhan Omar and her brother, and we're just getting started. If these things don't take, how should I put this? If the president can't take your mind off just how bad the air is, I don't know what will, but we'll find out together. Kevin Miller, 580-KIDO. Your home for Fox News right after Dave Burnett gives you a smoky
Jimmy Fallon, these guys, they're terrible. They're terrible. Stephen Colbert, these are people without talent. They get a lot, they have talent. You know who has talent? Their agent, getting them the money they get. They have no talent. But they are not comedians. They're not funny people. They're angry people. They're sick people. But the association really put on a big show, and they have somebody very special. I look forward to seeing him. And so they thought about going with a professional clown for entertainment, but Adam Shifty Schiff was not available. He's known, I called him, I hate some people, I shouldn't say this, I'm not supposed to hate, I'm supposed to love everybody, but he's a terrible person, he's a liar. And I called him Watermelon Head because he has the largest head I've ever seen with the smallest neck, pencil neck. How does that big, fat, ugly head stand on a little pencil neck? And then I'm told that even Rosie O'Donnell reached out from Ireland. She really wanted to be here in order to honor me. She loves me very much, and she was desperate to come back to the United States and pay her respect to Donald J. Trump. But that didn't work out, unfortunately, because nobody wanted her to come back. But she's one of the greatest sufferers of Trump derangement syndrome. She's a sick young woman, sick older woman, I guess now I have to say.
And there we have it, the President of the United States going over the airing of the grievances, if you will. Phone numbers here, 580-5436. 580-KIDO. The president in his speech will, if you don't like the president, you're going to have people criticizing him. If you do like the president, you're going to say, yes, it's about time. By the way, Gavin Newsom, he got a little shot in on gallivanting Gavin as well.
And it's traditional that at least one or two potential presidential hopefuls attend the correspondence dinner, but many of them seem to have really chickened out. I was disappointed that Gavin Newsom didn't show up. He didn't show up. He should be here. But I heard that he recently said that we will lose our country if we don't fight fire with fire. And to be fair, there's only one thing we know about Gavin, and that's that he definitely doesn't want to fight fire with water. He's got a lot of water he never uses. What a disaster. That should have never happened.
All right, appreciate that from President Trump. Phone numbers here, 580-5436. 580-KIDO. I don't know if we're going to really play some of the reaction, but you're going to have people.
The association decided not to.
Okay, we're not going to have shifty shift again, Sweet William. Thank you for that. But at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, you have people condemning his comments on Caitlin Collins, condemning his comments on CNN, and then he talked about Anderson Cooper, that he used to like Anderson Cooper, but he doesn't. But Anderson Cooper has his own quote-unquote issues, if I recall correctly. So the Caitlin Collins comment, this is the president basically saying, I'm just going to be who I am, and I don't really care if I offend people. I don't care if I offend the media, because the media doesn't like me. And if the media doesn't like me, well, then I don't like them. But again, you have people on CNN that are going to be very, very, very different. Here is the president talking about Anderson Cooper.
First time up in terms of that. And we had a sort of little preview, and then Anderson Cooper was going to fight Lawrence O'Donnell. I'm not a fan of Lawrence O'Donnell. I like Anderson, actually, because he's covered me well for many years. Then he went bad as soon as I went for politics. But for years, he loved interviewing. I did so many interviews with him, and he was great. But, he's got a little different persuasion than me.
Wonder what he's talking about there.
In many ways, actually. And Lawrence O'Donnell, never liked him, never thought he had any talent. But he's still making a living, so I can't knock it.
So he was most likely referring to Anderson Cooper being a person who is gay. And we all know that Anderson's gay. He has a gay husband. He has kids. He's been very public about that. But the president of the United States doing his very best to take shots at everyone. Now, again, if you don't like the president, you're going to go, this is horrible. If you do like the president, you're going to go, well, that's what the media gets. And like I said, the Caitlin Collins one was something you won't hear from anyone ever again.
Personally congratulate CNN's Caitlin Collins on receiving her award. It was all about me. It's a fake. She shouldn't get the award. It was a fake, but I didn't mind. I said, Caitlin, congratulations. But it was fake. There's no question about it. But she's a young, attractive woman. She never smiles. I said, Caitlin, do you have a smile? Smile. You have a nice position. You're at CNN Fake News. You should be a happy person. So smile, Caitlin. Just smile. But we attack, and I thought Caitlin had really made it big with a major new sponsorship, but then I informed her that it wasn't her on the Bud Light can, it was Dylan Mulvaney. And Dylan Mulvaney cost Bud Light $35 billion in market cap. That was the worst commercial ever made, by the way, for those few people that want to hear that. Most people don't care, but I would. I wouldn't want to hire Dylan anytime soon.
Yeah, again, like I said, Caitlin Collins, it comes with the territory. You have to be able to take the heat if you're going to dish it out. We'll get your reaction as we move along. We'll give you the update on what's going on in Seattle, the fallout of that deadly shooting. More of your calls as we move along. Yes, the air is bad. Yes, stay in. If you can't, we are praying for you literally here. Kevin Miller on your home for Hannity, 580 KIDO.
false on these. Abolish the Senate.
True.
Okay. Replace the presidency and Supreme Court as we now know them.
Yep.
Abolish ICE.
Absolutely.
Abolish borders and give amnesty to anyone currently in the U.S. illegally.
As a long-term plan, yep.
Defund the Pentagon.
Absolutely.
Abolish prisons, at least in large part.
Yeah, again, that as part of a long-term program, yeah.
Okay, so no prisons. Government or public ownership of most large corporations.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
There we have it from our own Shannon Bream. You might have heard that on Fox News Sunday right here at 580 KIDO. There we have one-on-one with the National DSA National Co-Chair, Megan Romer. Al in Ontario. Good morning, Al. You're on 580 KIDO. Good morning, Al.
Good morning. You know, the president isn't going to play by the king's rules, right? Okay, this is the thing. You know, we're at war now. Okay, this is word war. Okay, it's not kinetic war yet, but we have the communist Marxists, and the president is, hey, look, you just got to call it like it is. You know, I mean, what is an activist judge? Okay, that's a euphemism for a liar, cheater, and thief, basically a political commissar, right? That's what it is. Why are we playing by the king's rules? The kings, let's say, the deep state, the Marxists, the opportunists, okay, these are just liars, cheaters, and thieves, you know, and the problem comes in, like with President Trump, okay, he talks to people who don't know their ass from their elbow, right? And so when he explains to them the difference between their ass and their elbow, they become indignant, okay? And then they think, oh, well, he's being condescending. And, he's talking down to us. Well, no, he's trying to help you understand common sense. Okay. And we're not playing by the king's rules. Okay. And as we look, at really, how our country is evolving, and we look, let's just say Friday, Chuck Ambrose. I love Chuck Ambrose. He's a very honest man. Okay. I learned so much from him on his one interview with you where he said that he wouldn't indict people for process crimes, right? You have to make sure you actually do the crime, not just the process crime. Unfortunately, too bad our legal system doesn't work that way. But anyway, I think that on Friday, Chuck got it all wrong. Okay, when he said that, citizenship birthright was, the plain language of the 14th Amendment said that, if you're born in the United States, that your citizen birthright. Well, no, that's not true. We're not playing by the king's rules, right? Okay, what's the truth here? Okay, the truth is, plain language. Kevin, can you understand Old English? That's plain language. Can you understand Middle English? No. It sounds like German. Can you understand? I mean, read Shakespeare. Can you understand that? No. I mean, some of it, yeah. But the whole thing is, if you go back in time, what do you have to look for? Okay, you have to look for the original intent of what was being written. And the original intent, as Stephen Miller so eloquently stated, because you got to break it down to first principles, right? Okay, you can't suicide your nation. Okay, obviously, if you're interpreting the Constitution to suicide your nation, that's an incorrect interpretation of the Constitution. And to me, obviously, when you're looking at, something like birthright citizenship and you say subject to the jurisdiction thereof, what you're really talking about is that child subject to the jurisdiction of its mother, and that mother is subject to the jurisdiction of the nation that they are a legal resident of, right? So, so we got to stop playing by the king's rules here, because the Marxists are destroying this country. But you can't not play by the king's rules because you're scared. Oh, I got to make sure. It's difficult to get a man to understand something when his emoluments or his salary depend on him not understanding it, right? Oh, well, we have to be so honest. You're so honest that you're still playing by the king's rules. No, we have to look at things in a different way than what the king wants, because the king wants to destroy the nation, and that should be obvious.
Yeah, Okay, that was a long, meandering road, and you're not going to respond to the president's speech at all?
I did. I just did. Okay, but you see, here's all you compartmentalize everything, Kevin. You don't understand. What President Trump is doing is he's going up against Marxism.
You're not making it easy to understand. You're speaking above us.
Well, you see, this is the whole thing. You know, I'm trying to explain to you your ass from your elbow, right? Okay, but you think what? You think I'm being condescending. I'm not. This is a relatively simple concept here. Okay, but we don't want to understand it. Is it maybe we don't want to understand it for other reasons? It's relatively easy to understand, in my opinion. I don't know. I don't think this is anything that a bright ninth grader.
And thus we have
the
audience of one. I'm just
I
saying,
don't think it is the audience of one. I don't think it is the audience.
You lose us
in
in the minutia, and then you get defensive when I clearly say I'm not getting it. I don't think anybody's getting it.
Well, look, if you don't get it,
can
Kevin,
you translate to us in the King's English? Was it really appropriate for the president to do that? To smack those people the way he did?
What did I just say? Okay, listen. Okay, the whole
I don't know. That's why I'm saying I don't. Hold on. 580-5436-580 KIDO. I don't know what he said. Does anybody know what he said? Does anybody know what Al said?
Okay, so what we have is the Marxist takeover of the United States. And nobody can say anything. Okay, you can't say the N-word or you're going to jail, which you should be able to say the N-word. Okay, you should. Okay, now I don't like it, and when I say you should, okay, under the law, okay, I mean you shouldn't be using that type of language, but what the heck? If you want to say it, you should, because you should be able to say offensive speech. Okay, it's the First Amendment. It's all about offensive speech. Okay, that's what it's about. They hate offensive speech. The Marxists hate it. Because when you actually tell somebody that what their ass from their elbow is, it's kind of offensive.
Okay, Al,
right?
Thank you for the call. And look, we love opinions. I have used inflammatory and provocative rhetoric, but after the third swear, you got to go. And basically, it's like this. And I'd love to hear from people that are in the middle. Maybe people aren't in the middle. At 580-5436-580 KIDO. Maybe that's not the case. Maybe we should, sit there and say this. I'm not going to condemn the president. The president is the president. Nobody's going to tell him what to do. Literally, no one, like Al, he's a lot like Al. No one is going to tell him what to do. But look, I cover politics. I'm watching politics. I wish that we had more interaction in politics. But locally, I just don't think that's possible anymore. I mean, we have this devastating fire going on. And have we had anyone come out and talk about it? Well, we have, and maybe again, this is, we go back to that movie Casino, where the county commissioner goes in to talk to Robert De Niro, and he goes, "This ain't home, partner. You ain't from here." And I look at this thing, this is a major emergency. And people are going to go, "Well, Kevin Miller, what would you like someone to do?" I'd like someone, maybe the do-gooder mayor of Boise, maybe she should start doing a press conference saying, condemning the forest fires. Oh, wait, I think she's against trimming the forest. I don't know. Here's another one. At 580-5436-580 KIDO. I'm looking at this thing, and I'm thinking to myself, hey, this is pretty bad. Do we have an an Idaho Department of Air Quality? Oh, that's right. And I know Kent Goldthorpe is in Alaska, but we had this thing called the Air Quality Board in Ada County. The most worthless expenditure of EPA money. It was the mayors, and it was people from the community. And they put me on the Air Quality Board. And remember now, and again, this has nothing to do with anything. Remember we got rid of emissions testing? I know this has nothing to do with forest fires, but you can't tell me that we just kind of let the air go on and we have this toxic movement going on. Well, it's a Canadian fire. It's an Oregon fire. We should be doing something about it. But we live in Pleasantville. And in Pleasantville, we go, well, it's not so bad. unless you're the guy clearing the roads or building the homes today. Well, Kevin Miller, the air quality stinks. And not one public official has commented on this. Does that seem strange to you? Not raising awareness about how bad the situation is, which proves my point. Just go drink your beer, get your RV, and we'll run the government for you. Now, again, it's not my job to tell public officials what to do. But if I'm somebody who's a comer, if I'm somebody who wants to be somebody, this is a big issue. We wrote an article about 3 dangers, in my opinion, that the legislature has ignored. Water, insurance costs, and fires. It's all hitting at once today. And we have Al, God bless him, that is going to go toe-to-toe with Chuck Ambrose on what Chuck said on Friday. You lose people that way. I love Al. I want Al to call every day. But he shouldn't get mad when I go, hey, bro, you're speaking over our head with the kings this and the kings that. And that's one thing that we all have to figure out. You know, now we have real-life Democratic socialists taking over the Democratic Party, saying we need to do something. We're going to blow up the Senate. We're going to do this. They said it with a straight face. Oh, I could go on and on, which we will. We have got 3.5 more hours. Before that, though, 580 KIDO traffic. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Smoky traffic. Can you see through the smoke? Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Kevin. From the Idaho Pizza Company studio, hazy commute for you as you're coming out of Canyon County into Ada County, slowing as you enter the freeway right around Garrity on down to the county line. Heavy traffic in the Meridian area as well. No major accidents to get in the way. Vinson Lumber is your Cedar Factory outlet, saving you 70% off the big box stores. Now in Kuna and online at vinsonlumber.com. I'm Dave Burnett. That's your traffic now on KIDO.
Thank you, Dave. As we move along, phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Like I said, these are crazy times when we have the Democratic Socialists saying they're literally going to blow everything up. Obviously, another big story that we are covering is this situation in Seattle. Here we have Congresswoman Jayapal on the ground saying,
obviously, and we are coordinating across all different levels of government. We're going to continue to work with the mayor, with the governor, to make sure we get whatever federal resources we need here on the ground.
Federal resources, you have people that were killed going to the Space Needle. They were hanging out at the Seattle Food Festival. 3 people dead, at least 4 others injured. 1 person is in custody. Remember, they've pretty much defanged the police. Police are still searching for a second suspect. Here is Socialist Mayor Katie Wilson.
Our focus right now is on supporting the victims as SPD and partners continue this investigation. And we've had a great response from SPD and from fire, all our first responders, medics, and folks at Harborview. We'll be working through our Human Services Department to figure out what support we can provide to the victims and their families.
Yeah, this is getting nuts. And again, if you disarm the public, well, these things are going to happen. Seattle Assistant Chief of Special Operations Tyrone Davis said this concerning what really happened in Seattle.
This afternoon, we had officers working our Bite of Seattle event. At 6:01 p.m., gunshots were heard. We had officers in the area, in the immediate area, when these gunshots went off. Officers responded and addressed one of the shooters.
And we'll have your reaction next. How safe is Seattle, Portland, Boise? The Big Three with me, Kay Milley, 580 KIDO, windowworldboise.com. Check them out today. Working in this condition, but fighting fires, those people with challenged breathing systems. I was at Idaho Patriot Thunder. And I got to tell you, I spent most of it inside just because of the conditions. We had one young lady who did her very best to cover it. And she goes, Kevin, I've got asthma. I go, well, then you need to get indoors. So if you have some type of asthma condition, you have other conditions, this is a rough time. Apparently, this is going to be here for quite some time. And again, 3 dead, several injured at the Seattle Food Festival. A 2-year-old among those injured after the deadly shooting. And again, Seattle has their own way of covering things. Seattle has their own way of dealing with issues, and that's why a lot of people are moving out of Seattle if you can afford to do that. What about Portland? What about Boise? What about the future of the country? And people are going to go, well, okay, and people go, well, if you want the national news, you can talk to Kevin, and you want the local news, you can, turn on Channel 7 or what have you. But the comments from the Democratic Socialist leader heard right here on 580 KIDO from Fox News Sunday. Are you kidding me? By the way, our prayers and thoughts go out to the people of Fruitland. Michael Vaughn, the trial of his murder will be going on. 5 years, still no body. And I know as we've broadcast from Fruitland a few times, not only Fruitland, but the entire state and the nation is praying for Mr. Vaughn, and it would be wonderful if Mr. Vaughn were found alive. Hard to believe that it has been 5 years. So we have those stories going on locally. We have this Oregon-Idaho fire that is, killing our air. And we have nobody really speaking out against it, except perhaps maybe we'll get Crazy Dylan. Maybe we'll get a few others. But really, why are we not addressing this issue? This is a bipartisan issue. And back to my point about, Kevin Miller, he doesn't cover anything locally. What is there to cover locally? We have very bad air right now. Horrific bad air that is doing a number on all of us. It truly is. In fact, if you don't want people to move out, now is the time to take pictures, to share, to do everything that is humanly possible and send this out everywhere. Don't move to Idaho. It's like this 11 out of the 12 months a year. I know you have to fib, but if it stops the immense move-in, the immense migration, so be it. So be it, dear friend. So be it. But let's get to the comments of the Democratic Socialist leader, Megan Romer. She's the co-chairman. She's not a kook. She is their leader.
Okay, so we're going to put up on the screen a few of the things that are part of your platform, and I want to ask you, just give me sort of a true or false on these. Abolish the Senate.
True.
Okay, replace the presidency and Supreme Court as we now know them.
Yep.
Abolish ICE.
Absolutely.
Abolish borders and give amnesty to anyone currently in the U.S. illegally.
As a long-term plan, yep.
Defund the Pentagon.
Absolutely.
Abolish prisons, at least in large part.
Yeah, again, that as part of a long-term program, yeah.
Okay, so no prisons. Government or public ownership of most large corporations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Boy, that is something. That is something pretty wild, if you will. So how does this work? See, if I were, and again, this is no slight against anybody, but that's what talk radio is about. It's the if I were show. If I were the governor, if I were this, if I were that. If I were someone that, decided to audition to apply for an office, then I would be going, if I were running ops for the local Republican Party, the state Republican Party. And again, don't misinterpret this. This is not a shot against them. This is the direction of the program. And like I said, I grew up watching, I didn't grow up. I was on Hardball with Chris Matthews. I was on the Hannity show with Hannity and Combs. I've done all these things. So I don't play a politician. I in some ways I am. What I would be doing, and for all the people that get on Twitter or X and they make these compelling videos, and a lot of them do a lot of great work. A lot of them do a lot of provocative work. Not speaking about anybody directly. It's no hidden messages here. I'm not that awake to do this yet. But what I would do is And even, again, mainstream reporters, they just all want to get along. They want to get along with everybody. They just want to be your friend. And in the end, there are no friends, because if you don't have a radio show, if you're not in office, nobody cares. So my point being is, Mayor McClain, do you agree that you should abolish the Senate? Mayor McClain, do you like the Democratic Socialist? The Boise City Council, do you believe that all corporations should be blown up and owned by the people? Which, again, that hits very close to home. Very close to home for them. Pardon me. Because the mayor of Boise was the only one that backed the Micron deal. The mayor of Boise, when we talk about elected officials, now I believe the governor, but he kind of stayed behind the scenes. This is her signature issue. So you say to her, and you say to any Democrat, do you agree with this? Is this something that you agree with? That's really what it comes down to. Make them put it on the spot. By the way, they have a really, really, really hard time with this one. An exceptional hard time with this one. And the reason why they're having a hard time with this one is because these liberal loons, they've said they're not even Democrats. They're just there to get access to the ballot box. In other words, everything has a reaction. Everything has a reaction. And the reaction being, look, you people have to go out and work in this. Maybe you have to drive in it, like Nicole or Edwin or Mike. I mean, I'm having trouble even speaking, and I'm indoors. This is how crazy it is when we're talking about the air quality today. So here you have these people, and this is where, again, if we had real-life political coverage outside of this program, I'm not taking shots, I'm just giving you objective analysis, you go up to every elected Democrat in the state and say, do you agree with the following?
Okay, so we're going to put up on the screen a few of the things that are part of your platform, and I want to ask you, just give me sort of a true or false on these. Abolish the Senate.
True.
Okay, replace the presidency and Supreme Court as we now know them.
Yep.
Abolish ICE.
Absolutely.
Abolish borders and give amnesty to anyone currently in the U.S. illegally.
As a long-term plan, yep.
Defund the Pentagon.
Absolutely.
Abolish prisons, at least in large part.
Yeah, again, that as part of a long-term program, yeah.
Okay, so no prisons. Government or public ownership of most large corporations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to put up on the screen a few of the things that are part.
So thank you, Shannon Bream. So now, by the way, breaking news, the Al Said in Michigan, the Democratic candidate, said a win would give him a platform to push more progressive movements forward. In other words, blowing up the Senate. So if you are, we call this Bernie Sanders revenge. He got hosed in 2016. He got hosed in 2020. And it's really, again, I know there are a lot of people that like the rings. A lot of people like the Potter. And I'm a product of my generation. It's the Star Wars. It's Luke, Leia, and Han, and Chewie. And, of course, Obi-Wan. It's not the little hobbits running around. It's not Harry on his broom. But it all comes back to this. It all comes back to blowing up the Death Star. Bernie was the Death Star. Bernie was the guy who was so dangerous. Remember, he was winning all the primaries. Bernie flippin' Sanders was so dangerous that they've destroyed the primary system on the Democratic Party by moving the states of Iowa and New Hampshire out and putting in South Carolina. Now, with all due respect to our friends in South Carolina, I've got family and friends that live in South Carolina. It's not the same state politically as New Hampshire or Iowa. But because New Hampshire did not like Joe Biden, he decided to give his guy, Jim Clyburn, who, a beloved member in the House, a very progressive member in the House, the first in the nation primary. Of course, Representative Clyburn, I'm not making this up, literally just admitted he only heard about and understood what ChatGPT was a week ago. I'm not making that up. and he is an elected Democrat. But my point here is, at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, I'm asking every Idaho elected Democrat, do you agree with the Democratic Socialists of America? Because just as the Sith travel in two, the defeat of Bernie Sanders only led to more socialists that are more radical. I mean, are we going to have photos of Bernie one day like other progressive leaders? You know, big posters of Bernie. He led the way. Whew. Let's go to Chandler, who joins us now on 580-KIDO with Kevin Miller in the morning. Hello, Chandler.
Hey, Kev, good morning. I will say, actually, I do understand what Al is saying. He can sound like the Oracle Delphi, but, I think in a lot of ways he's spot on. There's a difference between being polite and being a pussycat, and take the cat out of what I just said. And that's the Republican Party today. Like, what do these clowns stand for? What are you doing? What is it you're about? Like, please tell me. I don't want to hear about the Bible. I don't want to hear about I'm like you. I don't want to hear about these things. And the other side of it, too, is, we're, like Al said, we're in a war. If you want to win a war, sometimes you got to fight dirty. During the Revolutionary War, we chose not to fight the way the English wanted us to. We hid in the bushes, and we shot their officers. It was very ungentlemanly of us to shoot the officers of the British Armed Forces. But guess what? When you shot the officers, they were disorganized, and they didn't know what to do. It was ungentlemanly style of warfare. Well, it worked, and we won. Another great advantage. Another thing of this too is you got to find the weakness, the fault in the system, and you got to exploit it. Another great example is the Philadelphia Flyers, aka the Wall Street Bullies. So they had a good hockey team, but they just couldn't quite make it. And they were looking around and like, well, what is it? Like, oh, we don't have an enforcer. Like, somebody who does something bad. We didn't have a Dennis Rodman to throw an elbow when the ref wasn't looking, nothing like that. So they got one, but they said, hey, why stop at one? Let's add three. And so they did. They added 3 enforcers, and they won the Stanley Cup back-to-back, 2 years in a row. And if you look at the rule book for NHL hockey, it tripled in size as a result of what they did. Lee Atwater wasn't a nice guy, but he won. Like, that's it. I mean, it's time to fight.
So wait a minute.
Nice.
Tell me, Al's meandering.
Right.
Tell me how that is moving the needle. Look, I read a book on Lee Atwater. I marveled at Lee Atwater when I was a little kid. But those tactics, the media landscape has changed and everything else. So tell me again how the president goes to the middle when he's going after Caitlin Collins, calling her Dylan Mulvaney. Now, I may think that's funny, but there are a lot of people, a lot of women, a lot of men that listen to this program go, see, that guy's just a jerk.
There's a lot of blue-collar people like myself who like jerks and like people, what you're missing.
Hold on. I get that, but I'm saying, what I'm saying, and Al doesn't understand, is he's not reaching the people that aren't already in his corner.
Okay. I could concede that to you. Yeah, I can see that to you. So... But
we live in a different world. We don't live in a world of Chandlers and Als. I wish we did, but we don't.
Right.
And maybe because and you lived in other places. This is very different than, let's say, Seattle or Chicago or anywhere else. People here are. I mean, look, we have the worst air quality in the world, and the only people who are complaining about it, is me. And. Right. I go back to the wacko Democratic Socialists. If I'm every Republican, look, I've got press releases out. I've got Twitter out. I've got all these digital things that were promised. And I'm saying, do Idaho Democrats, do you want to blow up the Senate? Idaho Democrats, do you want to nationalize industry so Micron is taken over by the Commissars?
Right. Yeah, no, that's the fall of the Republican Party. Like, they abolished the get rid of the jails thing. I would do a list of right now everybody who's in Ada County Jail, and the crimes, and go to Nicosia and Mayor McLean, all of them, say like, hey, these are guys that are in jail for these crimes. They're a Democratic Socialist. They have a chapter in Boise. They're not. It's not some far away thing, people. It's here. But put it on them. Say like, hey, this is what your leader is saying. Do you support this? Do you support this rapist, this drunkard, this molester being back out on the streets? You're absolutely right, Kev. They're just not. They're not taking the ball to them. It's too much prevent defense.
Well,
So,
and here's the other. I mean, but again, and here's the other one. You can attack Republicans, and it's the Mitt Romney thing, but you can't attack the libs. And again, look, that's why people are elected and been to run the Republican Party. This is just our opinion. Now, let me move to another topic. You cover the news quite a bit, don't you?
yeah, I try and stay it in tune.
So this is something that maybe it'll be covered, maybe it won't. But apparently, Apple and Micron are going toe-to-toe over the future of the chip industry. Have you heard about this one?
No, I can't say that I have.
Well, it pays to get that subscription, that $4 a month to the Wall Street Journal. Apple's aggressive lobbying campaign to alleviate costs by using Chinese memory chips is colliding with an equally strong push by major supplier Micron Technology to block the move, putting President Trump in the middle of a clash between two of America's biggest countries. This is written by Wolf Winkler and Amrith Kumar. One more, let me give you another paragraph. In recent weeks, Apple Chief Executive Officer Tim Cook and top executives have pitched Trump and officials, including Lutnick and Besant, on a plan to use memory chips from China's Zhangjiang Ming Ding Jing Jing and Wanzing memory technologies. Sorry if I mispronounced that, China. In Apple products sold outside America, people familiar with the discussions. Now, what's the problem? Micron, including Sanjay Marato, the CEO, have warned Lutnick and other administration officials that allowing CXMT and other Chinese companies to sell to U.S. tech firms, regardless of the region of the sale, could destroy the domestic industry the same way China played a role in decimating steel. Now, again, you're not going to, and Chandler, tell me if my analogy is wrong. I keep going back to, and you're a more astute man than I am at 580 KIDO. Maybe you like Harry Potter. Maybe you like the Hobbits. I'm a Jedi guy. To me, it's, you weren't, the Empire was not going to let people get away. Of course they were going to come back. And China wasn't going to let Micron run wild because they tried to buy them. So, of course, they're trying to appeal to Apple. Micron's running the world right now. So, isn't it, and again, I'm not cheering for Apple or anybody else, isn't it, logical that other people are trying to find alternatives? Your reaction?
If we were back in Chicago and Daley was running it, he would not let this happen. So you're in Idaho here. This is where our congressional delegation has to show that they got a pair of balls. Fulcher, Simpson, Risch, and Crapo need to stand up and fight for Micron, fight for these jobs, and fight for this industry. All right? I mean, if they can still send millions and millions of dollars to the Taliban, then they should be able to somehow keep Micron in the game here. I mean, this is what it comes down to. That's what it's going to take. You're right. It's a fight. And do you have faith that our congressional delegation, who can't cut off funding to the Taliban, are going to come through and not in China's and Lutnick, who's an inside guy? Like, the other thing that needs to be known is he poorly advised the Trump administration about tariffs, and his kids all bought up options on the loss that was there that now the court awarded. So his kids are making billions and billions of dollars because of insider shenanigans. So that guy right there, you don't think he's going to do the same thing for Apple and screw over Micron and all this? Yeah, you're right. And so Risch, Crapo, Fulcher, and Simpson, they need to come out right now with a statement and do what the Democrats do: show up and fight for it, fight for these jobs, and don't be a wimp. Don't be a pussycat. So, yeah.
We appreciate that, Chandler. Thank you for the call. What? Okay. Thank you for the call. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. What you need to do with the Wall Street Journal is they will give you a ton of offers, but eventually they'll give you one that has it's like insane the amount of percentages off. And even if it's $4 or $10 a month, which is I think what I pay now, something like that, if you read one article, it's worth it. This is interesting because they talk about and the headline here is Apple wants to use Chinese chips, and the Apple people say we're not going to use the Chinese chips in the domestic market, we're going to use the Chinese chips in the foreign markets. Now, the people at Micron, and I'm sure Dave Petzl's all over this. We'll talk with him about this tomorrow. The people at Micron, remember, this is an international multi-gazillion-dollar company that really is tied to the future of Idaho. And it's all about AI, and U.S. executives rightly are calling for protections against lower-cost Chinese rivals. Among their opponents are startup founders and investors who argue that lower costs spur innovation. Thank you. From the Journal, as one of the largest buyers of memory chips, Apple for years has hammered Micron and rivals suppliers for lowest prices on components crucial to its devices. Now, remember, Apple has given us the apple, if you will, because they've raised prices and blaming the chips. They've raised prices on everything. Now it's just crazy what it costs for an Apple computer. And by the way, they last forever, if you will. The memory makers need Apple's huge volumes to keep their manufacturing facilities running at capacity. The negotiations have been so bruising that bad blood has built up. Before he was CEO of Micron, Mr. Mohorna ran SanDisk, another supplier of memory chips, to Apple. At SanDisk, and this is from the Journal, his distaste for Apple was so strong that he rarely met with the company. People familiar with his career said. The antipathy remains today, the people said. So basically, Apple is going after Micron. Now, again, from the Journal, and I hope and I urge that people pick the story up because it's important. You're going to go, well, Kevin Miller, why is it important? We're not talking about, just another Fortune 500 company headquartered in our backyard. It's one of the most important technology companies in America. When you have Apple, beloved for years, wanting to allow the Chinese into their chips, holy TikTok, Batman, what are you going to say? Well, Apple says, well, this is to ease shortages and to lower costs, of course. And then you have Micron based here. It would undermine the only U.S. memory chip manufacturer and weaken the domestic semiconductor production. By the way, didn't we spend a ton of money to make sure that all our chips were American? Think about that. American. And now we have Apple. And look, I'm an Apple guy. Much to the disdain of some people, whether it's not Sweet William, but the other guy, you know him, he answers the phone. Maybe I shouldn't be revealing that. And, I'm at Idaho Patriot Thunder, and people go, oh, those Apple people, bah, I hate Apple. And I'm like, okay, this is not going to help Apple with the listening public. Apple is crying foul, arguing that Micron's gross profit margins, now surpassing 80%, are evidence of price gouging. The iPhone maker also claims that Micron isn't reinvesting fast enough to increase supply, and then it goes on and on and on. So it really comes down to the president. And to Chandler's point, like I said, I'm not what I used to be, still pretty good, but if Kevin Miller has to say, we really should be having at least somebody making us feel good about how bad the air is, or at least addressing it. Maybe everybody's on vacation. Okay. People want to hear from their leaders. They just don't want people to grip and grin and, say, go get them, guys. Well, that would be great, but we don't hire cheerleaders. We hire public servants. And then when we have this story that have received absolutely no local reaction, and like I said, there are great teams, there are lousy teams, and then there's a lot of fertilizer, and then there's us. And if you know that line from Moneyball, nothing is original on this program. Just call me Captain Cliche. And then there's us. The fact that we're talking about this story shows you that, somebody's not I mean, if I'm the mayor of Boise, if I'm the governor of Idaho, if I'm anybody, I'm going, well, what's the deal here? And Apple has a lot of people in their back pocket. But Micron is the success story of this administration, and one could say the past administration. So what does President Trump do? With all due respect, nobody likes to pay higher prices. But who's to say if you put the Chinese chips in that Apple is going to lower prices? Think about that. Now, this has been the rage of everything else. And if you let the Chinese chips in, just like you let the Chinese cars in, it's game over. Or is it? I'd love to hear what you have to say at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, as we, again, give you the news. You're not going to find it everywhere else. I mean, we could be impacting a few things. I want you to think about a few things here. Idaho jobs, America First Manufacturing, which we all totally agree with. And do we want Apple giving China the technology? I'll explain why that's important in a minute. And by the way, are you willing to pay more for America? Pay more for America. 580-KIDO. Let's get you to work.
True.
Okay. Replace the presidency and Supreme Court as we now know them.
Yep.
Abolish ICE.
Absolutely.
Abolish borders and give amnesty to anyone currently in the U.S. illegally.
As a long-term plan, yep.
Defund the Pentagon.
Absolutely.
Abolish prisons, at least in large part.
Yeah, again, that as part of a long-term program, yeah.
Okay, so no prisons. Government or public ownership of most large corporations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to put up on the screen a few of the things.
All right, we'll get back to that at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Just crazy talk when you're thinking about just what's going on. It's just crazy, the DSA and what they're talking about. Also, this story in the Wall Street Journal, and again, we have a lot of people that cover the news, that talk about the news, but this is a big attack on Micron. Boy, am I looking at this. I believe the Journal actually has a photo from the Boise expansion, and here you have the folks at Apple versus the folks at Micron. Now, both companies have contributed to funding the new White House ballroom and made public shows of supporting President Trump. Last year, Cook gave Trump a plaque with a gold base in the Oval Office, part of a campaign to win tariff exemptions. Micron recently said it would invest $250 million to match federal funding of the so-called Trump savings accounts for newborn children of employees and those in states where the company operates. This isn't the first time Apple has tried to work with the Chinese and their memory chip suppliers. In 2022, Apple had gone through the painstaking engineering work with the Chinese to make sure its chips could meet Apple's exacting specifications. When the word of the budding supply relationship was made public, Apple faced blowback. Marco Rubio, then a senator, told Financial Times that Apple was playing with fire. Other lawmakers also criticized the move, and the Biden administration added the company to the entity list. Now, the Secretary of State Rubio and his office may have some involvement in the continuing discussions. Lutnick and Bissett are seen spearheading the effort, according to people familiar with the matter. So, to go back to what Chandler says, if you're, and you know, California has had turnover in the Senate, so they don't have the stroke that they once did. But we do. We have Mike Crapo, head of what is it, finance or judiciary or both. We have Senator Risch, Jim Risch, who I just saw yesterday in Meridian, foreign relations, very close with then Senator, now Secretary of State Marco Rubio. California, who they have Shifty Schiff. Maybe here we want to go to we want to move this game to our senators. We'll put our senators up against your senators and see where it goes. But it goes to show you that, and again, I'm not bagging on Apple, but this is a story that if you're successful, people will come after you. And that's where we are right now. It'll be something to look at. And like I said, it all comes down to this. Stories that we need to focus in on. Apple seeming to say that Micron is a bad Micron. Micron's saying, we're part of national security. Take that and put your iPhone where the sun don't shine. Then we have, and it comes down to this. We protect our steel. We protect our automakers. Are we not going to protect the chip maker? And one thing that, and if you've listened to this program for a long time, we have covered China extensively. God bless you, rest in peace, Constitutional Jack, where every day he would call in and he would call out the Chinese for monitoring this program. And people go, oh, Kevin Miller, you're in Idaho. Dude, Idaho is very important to what's going on in the Middle East, very important to the chips. As we used to call it, the Chips and Salsa Act. We are a player. We may not realize it with our bad air going on. And to quote Tea Party Bob, hey, if you're a vapor or a smoker, no need to light one up. Just go outside and get a whiff of the smoke. I don't know if there's any nicotine in the smoke right now, but anyway, it comes down to if you go to China, let's say, and we'll get to David DeHaas, Double D, hang on. Let's say you're David DeHaas. And you want to partner with the Chinese to create the living waters of China. And David DeHaas has something revolutionary, a colon cleanse that will clean that thing out so much that, yes, you can eat in your colon. I know, just go with me. It's a little early. It's a little smoky. Some of us are a little, a little grumpy. And he wants to go bring the magic to the China. And he goes to China, and the first thing the Chinese say is you've got to sell half your business to the Chinese people, to a Chinese business owned by, you guessed it, the communist Chinese. And then not only do you have to do that, but you have to give them all the technology. In other words, Boeing, when they sold the stuff to China, China was allowed to reverse engineer everything. So when their deal is up, they don't need Boeing anymore. That's how China went from a multi-generational, multi-decade, multi-century agrarian society to what it is today. Very simple. So poor David DeHaas would have to tell them how to clean the colon, and then they give him the boot, like you do that bad fecal matter. More on that in a minute. So if Apple partners with China, well, what happens? I mean, they have TikTok already. They have the cars. Isn't that the only advantage we have right now are the chips? More on that in a minute. Speaking of getting rid of the chips, sometimes they just stay in your system. A man that knows all about cleansing. We call him Double D, David DeHaas.
Paid for by Living Waters Wellness Center.
And here he is now. Good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. Yes, protect the colon hydrotherapist at all costs. Severe constipation, a.k.a. stuck poop. It's a real thing. You can't poop. The doctor says, drink prune juice, take more fiber, laxatives, suppositories, herbs. Magnesium works until it doesn't. You think you're out of options and in severe pain, so you go to the emergency center. The nurse has to stick their finger up your rectum to dig it out. They can't dig it all out. It's impossible.
Now, wait a minute. Hold on. What are you talking about here? What are you doing?
Real life, Kevin. I get these people all the time. I kid you not. And
I mean, we're a lot of people are having breakfast sausages right now, and you're talking about, well, I don't even want to go there. My goodness gracious. You're saying this happens.
Yeah. Yes, it does. Wow. A lot.
Those poor fingers.
Yeah. Not only that, but they add insult to injury. You do all that, and they give you a $26,000 bill. True story. And the next day, you still can't go. A lot of clients find great results with hydration through colon hydrotherapy. Simple, easy, not embarrassing, just relief, don't waste. The worst case we have seen was a client who had not pooped in 2 months. Shocking. Colon hydrotherapy freed the poop. He thought he had birthed a baby. 15 pounds of just poop. There are 2 long-term solutions, of course. You can cut your colon out and live with a poop bag, or colon hydrotherapy.
Okay, David. Okay. I think we've David. I think we've covered the poop enough this morning. Can we say fecal? Can we say anything else? You are fired up today.
Poop, help me God.
That's laughter, not coughing. But you're an irresistible force of. Well, I'm not even going to say the P word of POOP this morning. But please go ahead. You may.
All right.
Somehow we've gone from the Chinese to a very descriptive David DeHaas.
I know. Well, yeah, get clean, get a colonic. Learn how at livingwaterscleanse.com. Nothing here is meant to diagnose, treat, or cure any disease. Check out a qualified healthcare professional to see if cleansing is right for you. And listen to 580 KIDO on 9 a.m. Sunday morning for all the rest of the poop scoop. How's that? The scoop on the poop.
Wow. Thank you, David DeHaas.
An eclectic show for sure, Kevin.
It's memorable. It seemed like a good idea at the time. Thank you, David DeHaas.
I can just see ratings skyrocketing off it.
Paid for by Living Waters Wellness Center.
David DeHaas. Thank you, Bo. Yeah. You know, when people go, Kevin, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it, but that guy is passionate about cleaning the colon. How did we go back to the Chinese stealing our technology and Apple wanting the Chinese chips in the iPhones, but not in this country? Sure. After that one, just move on, Kevin Miller. Just move on. Wow. I suppose what we need is a good flush, if you will. Thankfully, we have the Democratic Socialists of America saying this yesterday on 580 KIDO's Fox News Sunday.
Okay, so we're going to put up on the screen a few of the things that are part of your platform, and I want to ask you, just give me sort of a true or false on these. Abolish the Senate.
True.
Okay, replace the presidency and Supreme Court as we now know them.
Yep.
Abolish ICE.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Abolish borders and give amnesty to anyone currently in the U.S. illegally.
As a long-term plan, yep.
Defund the Pentagon.
Absolutely.
Abolish prisons, at least in large part.
Yeah, again, that as part of a long-term program, yeah.
Okay, so no prisons. Government or public ownership of most large corporations.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there we have it from our own Shannon Bream at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Bottom line, it's just crazy. By the way, apparently within the Democratic base, socialism is on a rise. However, with the rest of us, not so much.
Do you consider yourself a socialist?
Yes.
Some of their policies include abolishing ICE and the Senate.
I agree with abolishing ICE.
I don't think that the Senate is currently working or doing the work that we hope that they would do.
Holy Convention of States, Batman. I don't even think they want to blow up the Senate. Do you?
Do you think we should abolish ICE and end mass deportations?
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
How do you guys feel about extending voting rights to all permanent residents, not only citizens, even restoring voting rights to people that are incarcerated?
If you're a permanent resident, absolutely should have a say.
Yeah. If they're here illegally, isn't that a crime per se?
Not to me.
Who do you think socialism is appealing to? Like what group of people?
The people that are here looking for handouts.
I would say like liberal Democrats.
Liberal!
A bunch of college students. It's a bunch of dudes in their mom's basements. And, never been on a date and just angry at life and just a lot of performative activism.
There's new data that shows it.
That's a great word, performative activism.
Highly educated with moderate income. So do you think there's a certain reason why these people are being attracted to kind of socialism and DSA?
Yeah, because they're not depending on it.
Well, they don't have to pay for it. They don't have to pay for anything. Crazy. By the way, have you heard about this? This is trending. Apparently, in Buffalo, New York, in an ode to Blockbuster Video, this is from WKBW television, Be Kind, Rewind. They're putting out little Blockbuster boxes where you can go and pick up free movies like DVDs, VHS, and it doesn't cost you anything. It's an ode to Blockbuster. By the way, maybe you've made bad moves in your life, maybe you haven't, but Blockbuster not taking Netflix seriously and not buying Netflix when Netflix said, look, buy us. And it didn't happen. More coming up next. We will talk about the president's speech. Tom Luna will join us next hour with a very important announcement concerning the fight for life. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO.
Your business model is going to be finished. No, it's true. When I'm not around, you're going to be broke. There's not going to be anybody to report on. Nobody gives a damn about anybody else. The New York Times the other day had 5 stories about me. Before I got into politics, in my whole life, I had 7 front-page stories. This is years of success. I think 6 were good, 1 was bad. I had 5 stories, 7, 5 good. Yeah, I had a total of 7 stories on the front page of the New York Times. That's not bad. Now I average about 3 or 4 a day. All different topics, all bad, everything bad. But here we are. Here we are. In fact, when I'm finished, I'm going right back to the Oval Office. So I have to be doing okay. But we are all doing good together. That's why tonight, to show just how much I care about the press. But you people...
That he went to the speech and he spoke. And a lot of people are reacting to it. We'll tell you a little bit about that as well. And by the way, he didn't have a lot of nice things to say about this one when we're talking about, well, it wasn't
removed, and they're now being run by a gay dictator facing a powerful regime that relentlessly attacked America has finally been toppled. Their former leaders have been removed, and they're now being run by a gay dictator facing internal divisions. But I, for one, wish Barry Weiss all the best at CBS News. She's a wonderful woman.
And there we have it. The president just letting people have it at 580-5436-580 KIDO. And, many times we as Republicans, we as conservatives take it. Not this guy.
But this year, the association decided not to have a comedian, so they considered using Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon. These guys, they're terrible. They're terrible. Stephen Colbert. These are people without talent. They get a lot. They have talent. You know who has talent? Their agent, getting them the money they get. They have no talent. But they are not comedians. They're not funny people. They're angry people. They're sick people. But the association really put on a big show, and they have somebody very special. I look forward to seeing him. And so they thought about going with a professional clown for entertainment, but Adam Shifty Schiff was not available. He's known, I called him, I hate some people, I shouldn't say this, I'm president, I'm not supposed to hate, I'm supposed to love everybody. But he's a terrible person, he's a liar. And I called him Watermelon Head because he has the largest head I've ever seen with the smallest neck, pencil neck. How does that big, fat, ugly head stand on a little pencil neck? And then I'm told that even Rosie O'Donnell reached out from Ireland. She really wanted to be here in order to honor me. She loves me very much, and she was desperate to come back to the United States and pay her respect to Donald J. Trump. But that didn't work out, unfortunately, because nobody wanted her to come back.
And coming up, more of Did You Hear What the President Said Friday Night? Tom Luna will join us to talk about the fight for life in Idaho coming up. Let's get you to work safely and on time. 580 KIDO. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Kevin. From the Idaho Pizza Company studio, heavy, steady traffic on the freeway inbound on the connector as well. Working at what appears to be a vehicle that has caught a field on fire near Shayla Avenue. That's between Lake Hazel and Columbia near 10 Mile. Watch for fire crews there. Fence and Lumber is your cedar factory outlet, saving you 70% off the big box stores. Now in Cuna, online at fenceandlumber.com. I'm Dave Burnett. That's your traffic now on KIDO.
Appreciate that, Dave Burnett. Phone number's here, 580-5436-580 KIDO. So what have we learned this morning? Well, we've got the wildfires raging out of control. We have the Democratic Socialists, i.e. the Democrats, that want to basically destroy the Senate, destroy this, destroy that. Not a lot of coverage on that from the mainstream media, if you will. They think that maybe it's a good thing, but how does this play in Idaho? In other words, if you're any type of Republican, any type of activist, any type of citizen journalist or operative, and I think in today, everybody is an operative, you lay the smack down.
His policies of enabling wildfires, paying drug addicts to be homeless, giving free sex changes to illegals, and telling rich people they're going to take away, all of your money is going to be taken away. People are fleeing, and they're fleeing in droves. We can't have that in this country. It's becoming such a horrible and dangerous location that Ilhan Omar, one of my favorites, and her brother are thinking about moving together, very much in love.
Oh, boy. More coming up next. Stay with us. Good morning. PEQ has issued a red unhealthy air quality forecast and alerts for much of southwest Idaho, including Ada and Canyon counties, due to heavy wildfire smoke, reducing visibility and air quality. Duh. Particularly during the morning and overnight, burn bans are in effect in areas affected by this. Smoke is also slightly cooling temperatures. Well, thank goodness for that. The big grass fire, primarily in Malheur County, Oregon, crossing into Hawaii County near Jordan Valley, has grown rapidly, roughly to almost 300,000 acres. We'll continue to keep you updated on that, prompting the level 3 go, go, go evacuations for areas including Pleasant Valley, South Mountain, and Jordan Valley, plus readiness alerts for those nearby. More coming up as it's only July, but we are still in fire season. We're joined now by our great friend Tom Luna. Of course, Tom, the former chairman of the Idaho Republican Party, an education advocate, former state school superintendent of public instruction, and we like to call him man of the world. Whether he's doing a podcast or appearing nationally or locally, he's always in the thick of it. Tom, good morning.
Good morning, Kevin Miller. How are you?
Fighting the smoke like everybody else.
Yeah.
Boy, tough conditions.
Yeah, we have friends and people that we go to church with that live in the Jordan Valley area, and this past weekend, especially yesterday, there was a lot of organization to get water and food and supplies and opening up homes for people that are evacuated going on. And wow, what a tragedy! And the loss of cattle and livestock is of a big concern. But it's we're in a tough spot, so a lot of prayers and a lot of assistance needed over in that part of the state.
Agreed. Okay, Tom Luna, what are you up to? What's your big announcement today, sir?
Well, I'll tell you what I'm working on with people of other faiths and other religions is we've organized an effort called Stop Prop 1, and we're beginning now. We're shining a light on this proposition that's going to be on the Idaho ballot in November that really would create an extreme law in Idaho allowing abortion. It goes far beyond what we dealt with Roe versus Wade. And the people that are behind this and the way they've written this proposition, it's very cleverly written. Their words are chosen very carefully. So we're shining a bright light on what really happens if this proposition passes and what happens to Idaho law. And, we've gathered the support of a lot of people. We've raised over $1.5 million. A lot of people, a lot of Idahoans are stepping forward to help get this message out. Once they realize just how radical this is, that it's way too extreme, and really it's not what it seems, people are beginning to realize that this is not what we want for Idaho. And so that's I'm part of that effort and getting the word out.
Well, Tom, you take a look at the efforts to overturn life in Idaho. What do you make of it?
Well, this is a very clever approach. And like I said, the words are chosen carefully. Just the name of the act itself is the Reproductive Freedom and Privacy Act. Who is not against freedom and privacy, right? I mean, those are words that ring true to Idahoans and conservatives. And so just the words that they choose to call this proposition. But let me tell you when you get into it, let me tell you why this is just too extreme. And really, again, it's not what it seems, is if this were to pass, abortion would be available well beyond the point when a baby can feel pain. And let me share with you specifically why. I'm going to read you the language of the proposition itself. And I hope people will take the time to read the actual proposition and just not listen to the the propaganda and the clever phrases that they'll hear from those that want to expand the abortion. But this is what Idaho currently says. Idaho law defines fetal viability as a fetus potentially living outside the mother's womb with artificial aid. That's what Idaho law says. Can survive outside the womb with artificial aid. This is what Proposition 1, this is their definition of fetal viability, that the fetus can survive outside the uterus without extraordinary medical measures. So Idaho law says with artificial aid, and but if Prop 1 becomes law, then all of a sudden it says only if the child can survive without extraordinary medical measures. So what are extraordinary medical measures? Common definitions in law and in medical practices are things like oxygen, nutrition through a feeding tube, things that happen in a NICU, those types of things that happen every day to sustain life outside the womb of a premature child are now considered extraordinary measures, and so under Prop 1, that child can be aborted. Under Idaho law, that's not the case, and so people need to understand how this just expands the access to abortion far beyond the point when a child can feel pain and far beyond what I believe most Idahoans feel is appropriate. So that's just one example, Kevin. I have more that we can talk about, but it's an example that this proposition is just full of clever words and phrases. But if you do a little digging, you realize that it's just a dramatic change to the laws we have in Idaho that protect the unborn.
Our great friend Tom Luna joining us here at 580 KIDO. And then you have people amplified by the news media saying that we're all losing doctors over this, that, the state is running out of doctors. No one wants to come here because of the Protect the Life law, if you will. Tom, how do you answer that one?
Yeah, again, we're going to shine a bright light on just what the facts are. Now, if you look at AMA, the American Medical Association, they've been bleeding doctors' membership for a long time because, quite frankly, doctors are fed up with a lot of the political angles and political decisions the AMA has made. But if you look at the actual number of doctors that are registered and licensed in Idaho, that number has gone up since Idaho passed its laws. And it's evident and clear, and we're going to shine a bright light on that because the argument has been made that somehow we're losing doctors because of the laws that we passed. Now, we have parts of our state, rural Idaho, that has always struggled for physicians, and that continues to be a challenge, but the current Idaho abortion laws are not causing doctors to leave the state. I was talking to a doctor about this specific issue, and he said, listen, OBGYNs, they go to where people have children. And where do people have children? Because that's who they service. It's in Idaho and Utah and states like that. And so we actually attract more doctors in that case. Now, if we've lost doctors because they want to perform abortions beyond what our laws allow, then that's always possible that a doctor's left Idaho because they can't perform the kind of abortions they want to perform. But we are not losing doctors that deliver babies and provide health services to women, and we're going to show that evidence. And as a matter of fact, let me just say, people can go to stopprop1.org. That's our website, stopprop1.org, and the number one. So stop. Prop 1, the number 1.org, and they can see information that we provided. They can sign up to get more information from us, and that's where we are going to start populating all of this information and why people should vote against this proposition.
Well, it seems, kind of wild that Idaho, as remote as we are, has been at the forefront of this case when you have, as soon as Dobbs was overturned, Joe Biden suing the state of Idaho.
Yeah, and we won, right? Attorney General Raul Labrador went and represented us well. We fought, and we were able to, to win that court case, and we were able to implement laws. Republicans, conservatives, we've always believed that this is a state issue, and Roe versus Wade made it a national issue. Once the Supreme Court said that this is a states' rights issue, then every state got to create their own abortion laws, and the law that Idaho has passed has resulted in saving over 6,000 abortions, 6,000 babies since the law was passed. Those are just real numbers, and when you compare the abortions that were happening under Roe versus Wade versus the abortions happening in Idaho, there's been 6,000 babies' lives that have been saved. Idaho law still allows abortion for rape, incest. It allows abortion to save the mother's life. And some people have said that, that's too extreme, right? That you have to wait till the mother's about ready to take their last breath. That's not the case. The Idaho Supreme Court ruled on Idaho's law that we currently have and said that it gives doctors a lot of discretion in determining when an abortion would need to happen in order to save the mother's life. And again, we're going to shine a bright light on this. Kevin, there's a couple more issues that I want to make about this, and one that is really near and dear to me, and that is the role of parents in the lives of their children. There's nothing more important than the responsibility that a parent has to their children in raising them and nurturing them, and preparing them to be adults. And we take that serious in Idaho. In Idaho, a doctor cannot give a child a Tylenol without their parents' permission. If this Prop 1 were to pass, a doctor could perform an abortion on a minor child without their parents' notification or their parents' consent. Let me read to you what's in the proposition. It says that the right to reproductive freedom and privacy is for every person. Now, every person means every person, because there's nowhere in this proposition, in this language, there's no mention of minors. There's no mention of children. There's no mention of parents. Why did the people who wrote this proposition, why didn't they include parents in here? Why did they say every person? Why didn't they say every adult? But they intentionally use these clever words. They leave out other words, and it gives people the impression that, it does not reveal to people the real purpose, and that is that every person can have an abortion without every child can have an abortion without their parents' notification. It also means that children would be able to obtain birth control, that schools would be able to advise young women on abortion without the consent of their parents. That's what the law proposition would create if it were to become law in Idaho, and that's why people need to vote no.
Tom Luna joining us, Kevin Mill in the morning, 580 KIDO. Tom, what do you make of, again, people saying that doctors will be prosecuted and they're fleeing the state because they don't want to be prosecuted, and all sorts of propaganda coming from the media and the pro-abortion folks?
Yeah, there hasn't been one doctor that has been prosecuted since Idaho's passed its laws, and there's not been one case brought against a doctor, charging a doctor, since our laws were passed. And so just look at the evidence, right, that it's just not happening. And again, the numbers of doctors in Idaho are greater than they were when we passed our laws. And go to stopprop1.org. That information is available. More information will be made available. And you're going to see ads, and you're going to see a full-blown campaign on our side to educate people onto what this prop is, and what they're going to find out is it's way too extreme, and it's not what it seems. And the question is, why did the people who write this, why did they choose to write it this way? Because they could have included things like parental notification. They could have included exceptions for children, infants that need nutrition, that need oxygen. But why did they write such a strict interpretation of what fetal viability means, or why did they even change the definition of it, but not tell people when they wrote this bill? It's really a backdoor attempt to rewrite Idaho's laws and to legalize late-term abortions, like I said, well beyond the point when a child can feel pain.
Our great friend Tom Luna joining us. Tom, how do you think this battle is going to go?
I think there's going to be a lot of money coming in from out of state. People who are pro-abortionists, there's similar battles going on in Virginia. There's other states where this is going on right now. In Florida, over $100 million was spent to get this on the books. Fortunately, Florida was able to defeat it. But there's going to be a lot of money coming in, and it doesn't cost a lot of money to fund a full-throttled campaign in Idaho. And we just want any of those organizations that can and will write these huge checks to look at Idaho and realize we don't want no part of that. Idahoans have made it clear they don't want this kind of a law. We're going to go spend our money in Virginia. We're going to go spend it elsewhere. We're not going to spend it in Idaho. We have polling that shows that the majority of Idahoans currently support the laws we have in Idaho, and we want to keep it that way. Let me tell you some great news. Our good friend Dee Sartant is part of this effort. You're going to hear a lot from Dee going forward. She's respected. I
get it, and we appreciate that. We just want to stick to the issues. So this is a coalition of faith-based folks coming together to make this happen. StopProp1.org. How do you think you're going to do?
We'll win, and we want to win so resoundingly that we won't see this on the ballot anytime soon. And so we need to make this a convincing win. One thing I want to make sure people understand is that when we go to the ballot in November, that there's not going to, some people may think there's not a lot of exciting races going on because there's not any contested races. But this is the reason people need to go to the ballot. And so we need to win. We will win, and we need to win convincingly so that we don't see this on the ballot anytime soon.
Tom, one more time, the website?
StopProp1.org. That's where you go, and make sure you sign up because we'll have newsletters and information going out. There's ways that you can help, yard signs, all this kind of stuff that's necessary to run the kind of campaign that's going to be necessary to defeat this. And join this effort, join this fight. Help us save Idaho. Help us protect the unborn, and stand up for these things that we know are true and worthy of our support. And help us get the word out, and we'll win. And
right,
we'll
Tom.
Win convincingly.
Yep. Okay, Tom. Thank you. We appreciate that. Our great friend Tom Luna joining us. Phone numbers here: 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And like I said, we want to make sure that we cover this issue and hear what people have to say. So here you have this website. Now, a lot of people are going to go, well, why did you cut Tom off when he's talking about Dee Sartant? We love Dee Sartant. Dee Sartant's great, but it's not about, and this is what I have to tell people being involved in these campaigns, it's not about getting a spokesperson on. It's people like Tom or David Ripley or Brandy Swindell or others that really work behind the scenes. The people like Kevin Miller that are in the limelight, they get that, and I get it. But we're here to really talk about the people to make a difference. So thank you, Tom, for that. And we move on. And I'm sure we'll hear from the other folks. They're welcome to join us as well. Kevin Miller, 580-KIDO. And we shall see. It's funny. There are a lot of people that are very, and they're natural. We all have our own idiosyncrasies. I have mine. And I believe that when you have people on, you talk about the issues in your role. I go back to And look, I guess I'm a cynic as well. But at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, there are a lot of people that said that we would get the weed legalized here in the state. And the weed people, now you have people amongst the weed people, they're fighting amongst each other. The people that, hold on, we'll just go, allegedly, the alleged weed people that contracted a group, and this is, again, I caught this on Channel 7 over the weekend, that... So, according to published reports, have we covered ourselves, Sweet William, from any type of liability? You never cover yourself, but we've done our very best, your due diligence. So, apparently, the weed people got mad at the Secretary of State for saying they were unorganized and, they had people that weren't voting people in Idaho, in other words, not registered voters, and they didn't appreciate that. And then, apparently, they blamed the company they contracted for doing this because the Secretary of State or others outed them that they were paying people to do this. You remember Victor Miller on this program were paying, said, look, I went and interviewed people. They said they didn't know what they were doing, but they were, getting paid for it. And so that was an embarrassing thing. No one likes to spend thousands, if not millions of dollars for what should be a no-brain weed initiative that fails because it was exposed. It was exposed by groups, grassroots groups like Victor Miller just does, that Tom Luna does, that others do. They don't get paid for this. They do this because it's the right thing. The weed people failed. Now, here we have this issue involving abortion. And you had, some people that covered this all the time because, again, news judgment, they felt this was very important, that Idaho is losing doctors. And then you had people suing the state because of the pro-life law. And for a state that, again, is off the beaten path, whether it's technology or culture, we seem to be in the news. And what Tom just brought to us was you have a coalition of faith-based people, a diversity of faiths, that are coming together, raising money to stop this initiative because you've heard ads on radio stations that are, promoting Prop 1, which is their right to do. And I'm not vilifying people. It's how the game is played. Earned money, free money, all sorts of money. Now, my view, I'm pro-life. I've been very blessed to work with David Ripley, Idaho Chooses Life, for many, many years. And like I said, in the old days when you were in radio, you took that for granted. As I've learned, it's great to have partners in the community. And we love David. We love Brandy Swindell, Stanton International. We have them on. And, this is our view. Now, we'll see how this plays out. In my view, I think that I agree with Tom. There are going to be enough people that are not going to believe the propaganda. And as I've said before, I have never seen anybody being interviewed from the pro-life community. Now, maybe when there's protests, but when Dobbs went down, when the trigger law went into effect, we didn't get David Ripley on. We didn't get Brandy Swindell on. Cosmo Magazine had Brandy Swindell on. We didn't have anybody from Birthright, Idaho on. We didn't have anybody on the other side of it. And isn't that really the point? Now, we can have an opinion and go, na-na-na-na-na-na-na, because we're an opinion-based show that's, news, whatever. But for others, I'm just sitting there going, man, so despite the millions of dollars or thousands of dollars that were spent by the Prop 1 people, it wasn't overwhelming. It was not overwhelming. So for once, since 2018, the last time we had a real political race, we're probably going to have some folks spending significant amount of money lobbying one side or the other. Now, just like not everybody agrees with me on politics, not everybody agrees with me on the life issue. So we'll see that going back and forth. That will be the big midterm here for us. It won't be the Congress people. It won't be the Senate people. It won't be the governor. Certainly not. I mean, the next big political race for us is the Boise mayor race. And, we're still waiting for comments on the horrible air that we're breathing today. No, we're not blaming that on the mayor, but it would be nice if somebody made some type of statements. I mean, last week, the Boise Rescue Mission that we covered said, look, we're opening up our shelters. We're going to have people in. We're always open through local donations. We're going to make it happen. I haven't really seen much from anybody else. And if I've missed something, well, then I apologize. So where are we going to go? Okay, if you've missed this program this morning and you're going, I'm going to be driving and I won't be able to get the radio signal, and I'd really like to know what happened this morning. Well, today we started with the president's unfiltered, uncensored commentary at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. We'll share that with you coming up again. We took a look at the fires and wondered what the heck is going on. No really comments about it. Well, Kevin Miller, what do you want me to do? Let's condemn the fires. Let's outlaw the fires. Let's do something about the fires. Tongue-in-cheek on that one. We revealed the story from the Wall Street Journal concerning Micron versus Apple, Apple versus Micron, and the president has to make a big decision on that one. And Apple has been up to these shenanigans again, partnering with the Chinese. Then we've had Tom Luna talking about, well, obviously, this major issue that will be the number one story coming up this election season. Why don't we do this? Let's take a break, and then we will figure out where we go to next. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. I do want to talk about fires, if you will. As Beavis used to say, fire, fire, fire. Right? Dated reference, sorry. 580-KIDO. Let's get you to work safely and on time between Baker City and Ontario due to the wildfires. Avoid the area. There are no detours available in this area. All other roads are closed due to the fire. Routes like Oregon 245 are not suitable for interstate travel. That is from ODOT or Oregon DOT or ODD, as Greg Ferrer would say, So we've seen this before, if you will. But on the other hand, very serious issues concerning the fires. So if you can, look, I'm going to say the dumb thing that everybody says. If you can stay indoors, please do. And even I'm indoors and hacking up along. Let's go to Eric in Cuno with Kevin Miller at 580-KIDO. Hello, Eric.
Up in smoke out
Eric?
there.
Go ahead, please, Eric. We missed that. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's pretty bad out there. Fire, fire. Yeah,
Yes.
It was weird just waking up. Was it yesterday or Saturday? Maybe it was Saturday. You just woke up in just a gray haze. It's like, wow, pretty bad. I think the most of it's coming from that Oahe fire. I think that's where the majority of that smoke's coming from. But you were playing these socialists. It is weird how they're rising up, but you can see how they rise up. I mean, look at the father of communism. That jobless dude, Karl Marx. I mean, what did he really do his whole life? He sat around and complained about inequality like a big baby and didn't do anything for himself. And that's what these socialists, that's what they ride on. They ride on the victim mentality. Poor me, look at that guy has too much money and this person shouldn't get in trouble and we need to abolish the police and look at these poor disenfranchised people from third world countries. We got to let them in here. We got to help everybody. That mentality right there is what's giving these people the steam that they're getting right now. Like Mondami getting elected in New York. What did he ride on? What did he ride on? He ride it on, poor baby, you don't have enough. You need free grocery stores and free buses and free this and free that and we're going to stop these mean cops. They're mean. If you think about it, socialism and communism is kind of like the philosophy of a bratty baby child that's not getting his way. You know what I mean? And these bratty baby children with no accountability grew up and became adults. And here they are, screaming for, the fair share and abolish the police, they're bad, and all that stuff that you were just playing earlier, what they were saying. They want to completely ruin our whole system. I mean, they want to abolish Congress. They want to get rid of prisons. They want to, all this crazy stuff. And I think we have a couple of, maybe one or two generations of people that really don't understand what freedom is because they've been is taken for granted in their mind. You know, they've lived here in America, you know, and they've grown up and not understood that, hey, you're in a free country and you can really make something out of yourself in the United States. They haven't realized that because they're lazy and they want to sit around.
Well,
and
they believe that the game is rigged against them.
Yeah. Well, no. Yeah, they believe that. They think they believe that. They think they believe that because they're lazy and they don't want to do something for themselves. That's what it comes down to. And they covet. They look at somebody else, you know, and go, oh, why don't I have that? You know what I mean? That's what they're all about. And, you know, then they think they want to just rework everything and distribute everything equally and all that weird stuff that they want to do. That's what they're all about. They're just, when it comes down to it, they're just lazy, jealous crybabies. That's what they are. That's my opinion.
Eric, holding nothing back. Anything else you'd like to share with us here?
Well, and abortion. You know the weird thing about abortion, and they keep pushing it. Why aren't we teaching our children abstinence? Why aren't we teaching our children to have a healthy family or even birth control? They don't even talk about that. It's just abortion, abortion, abortion. It's stupid. And I hope it doesn't go through. You know, I mean, and like you said, it's just out-of-state money coming in. They're gonna highlight this, and it goes right back to that victim mentality. You know, you get these crazy women that say, "My body, my choice," and I'm a victim because I can't abort my baby. You know, it's more of that victim mentality, crybaby stuff. Hey, maybe if you were responsible and chose abstinence or maybe birth control or just be an adult, you know, and be responsible, then you wouldn't have to be worrying about having an abortion because you would do things right. And if somebody accidentally gets pregnant, I mean, it's time to change your life. It's time to grow up and have a child and be an adult. But no, look at here. We got the choice, you know, here in the United States, and not here, but you know, they got the choice of being able to just abort their baby. I mean, it's horrible. It's so bad. It's wrong. It never should have been legalized all the way back. So that's my opinion.
All right. Thank you very much, Eric.
Hey, thank you, Kevin. You're the best.
Appreciate you, Eric and CUNA. Phone number's here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Again, our top local stories Dave Burnett first brought you. 84 closed in both directions from Ontario to Baker City to Ontario. A giant Greg Ferrer if you will. Let's take a look at some of the other issues impacting us right now. Idaho Department of Environmental Quality, DEQ, has issued a red unhealthy air quality forecast and alerts for most of our listing area, including Ada and Canyon counties, due to high wildfire smoke, which, as you know, if you're driving right now, reduces visibility. Has anybody seen the mountains? And, of course, air quality, particularly overnight and mornings. Burn bans are in effect in areas. Smoke is slightly cooling the temperatures. Well, that's some good news. Here we call it the Big Grass Fire, primarily in Malheur County, Oregon, crossed into Hawaii County, Idaho, near Jordan Valley. As you heard Tom Luna say, you've got people that are evacuating, possibly losing their homes. Has grown rapidly, roughly to almost 300,000 acres. Reports vary slightly, but as we move along, it has prompted a level a level 3 evacuation for areas including Pleasant Valley, South Mountain, and Jordan Valley, plus readiness alerts are nearby. The Scorp Fire, northwest in Murphy, Hawaii County, reached about almost 5,000 acres. Crews halted its spread with high containment. Reports of 75% progressing towards full containment level 1 ready, if you will. Again, evacuations were issued for nearby areas like Murphy and Reynolds Creek, but have been lifted or de-escalated in the updates. Again, as we talk about this, these fires are just out of control. The Claremont fire again, we're fighting it. It continues to resonate, if you will. Oh, yeah, I don't know Sweet William. I don't know how this is going to really impact the banana ball. I guess the bananas are coming this week. The Savannah Bananas coming to Boise State. Hopefully it'll be a good time. Would it be great if just we would have some type of giant wind save us? Anyway, phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Kevin Miller, 580-KIDO. Idaho trial looms in Micron patent fight over AI memory chips. Advanced memory technologists suing Micron for patent infringement. An Idaho jury will decide. Well, if it's an Idaho jury, I don't think that's going anywhere. But Micron in the news, as we talked about earlier from the Wall Street Journal. Trump caught between Apple and Micron in fight over Chinese chips. Pretty big stuff, if you will. And by the way, President Trump really lit people up. I'm sure Clay and Buck and Sean, maybe not Sean, will be playing this, but here's President Trump from the White House Correspondents' Dinner. I don't think that Caitlin Collins will be invited over to the White House. And again, once again, we'll get another traffic report in a minute. Ontario to Baker City closed in both directions due to the fires.
But I want to personally congratulate CNN's Caitlin Collins on receiving her award. It was all about me. It's a fake. She shouldn't get the award. It was a fake, but I didn't mind. I said, Caitlin, congratulations. But it was fake. There's no question about it. But she's a young, attractive woman. She never smiles. I said, Caitlin, do you have a smile? Smile. You have a nice position. You're at CNN Fake News. You should be a happy person. So smile, Caitlin. Just smile. But we attack, and I thought Caitlin had really made it big with a major new sponsorship, but then I informed her that it wasn't her on the Bud Light can. It was Dylan Mulvaney.
Eesh.
And Dylan Mulvaney cost Bud Light $35 billion in market cap. That was the worst commercial ever made, by the way, for those few people that want to hear that. Most people don't care, but I would. I wouldn't want to hire Dylan anytime soon.
There we have it. And the Ellisons will be taking over that very, very soon. By the way, the president did mention the new owners of CNN.
Tonight's event is even crazier than the last time. In fact, it's so successful that I've been informed by CBS News' David Ellison, who's going to do a fantastic job. He's the owner. He's the owner. He bought it, spent a lot of money, and he's going to make, I think, fantastic changes and keep some of the great stuff going. But that next year they're going to call it the Trump White House Correspondents' Center. He told me that, and I like that very much. We're going to change the name of it, okay? Oh, it's going to be so hot, just like our country is hot. We are hot, by the way. But to be honest, it's just about the only way that they're going to ever get me back here. You're going to have to change the name of the dinner.
There we have it. Let's go to Dave Burnett now, 580 KIDO traffic. Very important breaking news, especially if you're going to Oregon or coming in from Oregon. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Kevin, from the Idaho Pizza Company studio. Traffic on the freeway looking a lot better. Still hazy and smoky out there. If you're planning on going to Oregon up 84, it is closed between Ontario and Baker. 84 is because of a fire in the Blues. Vincent Lumber is your Cedar Factory outlet, saving you up to 70% off the big box stores. Now in Kuna, online at vincentlumber.com. I'm Dave Burnett. That's your traffic now on KIDO.
All right, almost 3 down, 3 to go. Like I said, it's a challenge, if you will. It's really a challenge going to Bend, I found. But now, again, coming in from Pendleton or Baker, it's going to be a long day. I'd say if you're around the Pendleton area, maybe you just go hang out in the casino. You don't have to gamble, but you can just go there and cool off. But again, this is just craziness when we're looking at these fires. And again, thank you to all who are fighting those fires to make sure that we're all safe. Boy, you would think in the year 2026, we could find a way to stop these things. And again, we're not going to stop highlighting and thanking people that are working in the outside air. You know, again, tough on older people, younger people, whether you have asthma, whether you don't. It's just tough to breathe right now. Other news of the day, we've been talking a little bit about this. And let's just go over some of the headlines here with Kevin Miller at 580 KIDO. The big one, and we'll see if this, you know, and again, I don't know anything, and this is why, you know, we have Dave Betts on. I don't know really anything about the stock market, but if you watch The Big Short or Billions, do you short this? Do you short that? Do you buy this? And I'm thinking as a backseat stockroom analyst, I'm going, well, I should have bought oil, and now I should have shorted oil because the merry-go-round continues. Oil down, stocks are up because of why? There's a pause in the fighting. As of today, we have not been attacking the enemy for quite some time. 3 nights with no new attacks after nearly 2 weeks of intensified operations. You might have recalled, if you were watching liberal NBC News, on Meet the Press yesterday, U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Mike Waltz, said the administration have described the president as allowing the room for talks while noting forces remained locked and loaded. You remember 150 medics now in Ramstuhl, Germany, or Landstuhl, Germany. Not, I keep getting that confused with Rhein-Main Air Force Base, Ramstein, Germany. Thank you. Getting ready to go. He's brought in more ships. Now you have the liberals going, are we really did we run out of missiles? Really? Is that what we're going to talk about? We're going to run out of missiles? Is that what we're going on and on and on and on? Think about that for a moment. Think about that as we look at this, that everything fluctuates on an algorithm or a press release. And all the lives that are impacted by this, you either agree that the Iranians want to kill us or you take the easy way out. I've always said, listening to this program, despite our numerous technical challenges, is not an easy thing to do. I can remember our friend Gene Lockhart saying, Kevin, we love what you do for the rescue mission, but sometimes, and this was like 10 years ago, she goes, I listen and I'm worried about the Chinese, I'm worried about this. It's a lot of anxiety. And so we try to do it now with a little laugh, but okay, so now we're going to once again talk to the Iranians. Now the Iranians, not to be confused with the Houthis or the Blowfish, they have blown up a couple of Saudi tankers, and Saudi is going to bring the pain on them. Now the Iranians, remember, if you listen to our media reports, the Iranians are standing tall. Kind of like that old New Kids on the Block song, standing tough. They've stuck up for us. But in reality, can they really maintain their hold when their inflation is 500%? Now, the Iranians, those that are talking, said they will hold fire as long as we do. Think about the impact on oil prices, and it's not easy to believe in this cause. It's very much easier to say, oh, this was an unnecessary war. Look at what the president has done to us, and it's all about affordability. If they nuked someplace, what would you think then? But that's not the way of the unicorns and the rainbows. It's Trump did this. He did what he had to do. He was elected to make those calls, right or wrong. That's our president. And then you have people concerned over munition stockpiles. I love how we're so heck-bent to prove that we're running out of weapons. You know what I mean? Again, like I said, you've got Benjamin Netanyahu coming in. Now people ripping him, going on and on and on. The bottom line here is war is not easy. And we have lost almost 20 people who volunteered to save the world. We pray for their souls. We pray for them. And it's about, again, doing the right thing. And it's about sometimes you go in. I remember Kosovo, and I remember everything else. Everybody gave Clinton a pass. You ever notice that? And when Obama decided not to use the War Powers Act, then it was okay because it was Obama, which is crazy when you think about it. But these are real-life issues that need to be discussed. And what happens if we just let it go? What I love about you, whether it's Glenn and Nampa or Patriot Ray or others, you don't take the easy way out. You contribute, you be informed, you don't get in the RV, you don't have the beer, you do the right thing. And that's really what it's about, doing the right thing. Think about that. The president continuing to get ripped for his correspondence speech. We'll have more on that. Do want to repeat our top story here that I-84 closed in both directions between Baker and Ontario. Tough day. Probably a tough day for those people in Eastern Oregon. Eastern Oregon, we have not forgotten about you. That's why we pumped up our signal 20 gazillion %. The signal is now working now. We want to make sure that we give you a chance, an opportunity to join the Kevin Miller Club and to talk about the issues that matter to you. And if you have any real-life fire reports, we would love to hear from you as well. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. But it's a pretty big deal, once again, and we've seen this. I don't know if we saw this last year, but we did see this in previous years where the roads have been closed. I got to tell you, I remember one year coming back from the Oregon coast, and I looked to my left, looked to my right, and the expressway, the freeway, the highway, whatever you want to call it, on fire. Cool off, everybody. Stay cool. Fox News next, 580-KIDO. KIDO, as we continue rolling on, fires all over the place. Please be very careful. And if you're listening to this during our replay, during the 5 a.m. Ag Power Hour, this is a replay of the 9 o'clock hour. I-84 right now closed in both directions. I don't think that from Baker to Ontario, I don't think it will be that way when we get back. So that having been said, don't forget our website, KIDOtalkradio.com, road closures and all sorts of nonsense dealing with this intense, very, very bad air. Joining us now, Jeff Manasso. As we roll along, good morning, Jeff.
Hey, buddy. Good morning.
Jeff joins us from Fox News Radio, and now possibly do we have an international incident involving a bridge?
Well, I don't know if it really involves the bridge so much anymore, where it involves, said payment for such bridge. The Gordie Howe International Bridge, it's opening in less than an hour, noon Eastern time today, with traffic flowing in both directions on a 1.5-mile span over the Detroit River. It connects Motor City to Windsor, Ontario. There was a ribbon-cutting ceremony held on Friday on the Canadian side of the Gordie Howe Bridge. It was set originally for June 12th, but that was abruptly postponed after Canadian officials say the U.S. and Canada were still working to resolve some outstanding issues. So Friday, the ribbon-cutting ceremony was a Canada-only event after they say President Trump announced new tariffs last week on Canadian goods that are supposed to go into effect next month. That President Trump says are in response to unfair Canadian trade practices. Nevertheless, Kevin, the bridge is a welcome tool for commuters. I mean, it's going to charge passenger cars to cross about a little less than $6. A lot less than the old privately owned Ambassador Bridge that opened to traffic almost 100 years ago, now charging $10 per car and way more for big commercial trucks. Critics called the Ambassador Bridge a monopoly situation, charging whatever they wanted and forcing big trucks to cross back and forth far away from Detroit because of the costs. So it's good for commuters, but there is a lot of politics surrounding, what's going to happen, who's collecting all the money. So the cost of the bridge was over $4 billion, 4.4, and it was paid almost entirely by Canada. That was going to keep all the profits, even though it's co-owned by both countries. President Trump obviously not happy about that. He's said as much. And the deal states that once the bridge is paid for, which is estimated to be about 50 years, then tolls will be split. President Trump on Truth Social on Friday weighed in on the Canadian ceremony, saying Canada disinvited us to the opening of the Gordie Howe Bridge, which is fine considering they're paying substantial tariffs to the U.S., but the original deal on the bridge, which was terribly negotiated, no longer stands. We changed the terms of the deal so that the U.S. now gets 50% of the profit. President Trump last week.
Pretty wild stuff and those bridges, they're very big bridges, if you will, having traveled a few of those in my day. That's all I can really add, Jeff. They're big bridges.
Yeah,
it seems to be big bridges and big egos. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge bridge, beautiful bridge, and named after Mr. Hockey, Gordie Howe, legendary Canadian professional hockey player. 32 seasons, 26 in the NHL, primarily with the Red Wings in Detroit, where he won 4 Stanley Cups and 6 MVP awards. So, a big honor for him, his family, and no doubt a beautiful bridge that's going to allow billions of dollars in trade to happen every year at a better cost than what people were paying for the Ambassador Bridge, but. There's politics behind it, just like there is on everything that we talk about. And President Trump wants it to be fair. Canadians say it already is fair. We pulling up the money. We need it paid for, and we'll see what happens.
Jeff Manasso, we always appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Phone number's here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Have you seen the new movie, The Odyssey? And I know Clay and Buck were talking about this, and one of the big stars, Anne Hathaway, who you look at her and you go, wow, Catwoman from Batman and, The Devil Wears Prada and all sorts of things. Would it be great if Anne Hathaway really represented our values? Well, this from a speech that she gave in 2018. Let's take a listen.
With the exception of being a cisgender male, everything about how I was born has put me at the current center of a damaging and widely accepted myth. That myth is that gayness orbits around straightness, transgender orbits around cisgender, and that all races orbit around whiteness. And it is a myth that keeps money and power in the hands of the few instead of being invested in the lives of the free. I appreciate this community so much because it's where I learned to reject this myth. I appreciate this community because together we are not just going to question this myth, we are going to destroy it.
We will translate that next. Kevin Miller, 580, Anne Hathaway, who has benefited greatly by the system that she rips.
With the exception of being a cisgender male, everything about how I was born has put me at the current center of a damaging and widely accepted myth. That myth is that gayness orbits around straightness, transgender orbits around cisgender, and that all races orbit around whiteness. And it is a myth that keeps money and power in the hands of the few instead of being invested in the lives of the free. I appreciate this community so much because it's where I learned to reject this myth. I appreciate this community because together we are not just going to question this myth, we are going to destroy it.
Okay, who benefited from the current power structure, if you will? Who has benefited from the current system that has allowed Anne Hathaway to make a lot of money? And really wasn't Anne Hathaway describing herself. Now, again, maybe we need Al in Ontario to translate this for us, but pretty wild when you think about this at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, where you have a major motion picture star who has benefited. Why? Because I suppose she's a good actress, but benefited why? Because she's very cosmetically appealing in her quote-unquote whiteness, which, like I said, is just very, very odd that you have the liberal self-loathing. And as I'm listening to this is craziness stuff. And you want to talk about narcissistic, deluded. This is what our Hollywood people are promoting, which is, like I said, just absurd. And gone are the days when Hollywood represented us. By the way, more on the war, more on the president as we continue on. But what's the alternative? Have you thought about the alternative of leaving the war? Well, Trump has made it worse because they didn't know they could blockade the Strait of Hormuz, and now they are. We need to get our friend Jeff Bacon on to talk about this. He's actually served in the Strait of Hormuz. If security guard Mike's listening, we need to get him on. He was on the ships in the Strait, in the Persian Gulf, where the action is right now. And now we have everybody going, hey, everybody, we're out of weapons. Don't tell the Iranians. And don't say that, that this is an unnecessary war, but it's an unnecessary war. So here we have liberal ABC News that we ran out of the Treasure Valley on the radio. We did. We gave them the boot. It was us. So here we have Senator Van Hollen. You remember the guy that went down to hang out with the guy in prison in El Salvador and fought for the guy that had a lot of bad things alleged against him, a lot of pending charges against him. Van Hollen, he went down there and hung out with him. So here he is with Martha Raddatz, who, when we talk about you should retire, Martha Raddatz will never retire. Can still bring the heat from Jordan this week, from ABC News' This Week.
More penny for this senseless war.
So you just walk away from that war? What would the Iranians take away from that? What would happen to them and their ambitions at this point?
Well, Martha, I think the Strait of Hormuz would then reopen. There's no question that Iran would go back to the status quo ante before the war started. I believe that. And that would show just how senseless this war is. But again, Donald Trump declared victory back in March. And so my view is ended. We had Pete Hegseth before the Appropriations Committee. Clearly no strategy. And when you have no strategy, it's completely unfair to American troops to continue to put them in harm's way.
Do you think, let's say what the objective is?
Okay, Senator, what is your solution? What is any solution? We're just going to peace out and let the mullahs run wild? Comes down to this at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Once you start replacing the toilet, you got to fix the toilet. Think about this for a minute. Crazy.
More penny for this senseless war.
So you just walk away from that war? What would the Iranians take away from that? What would happen to them and their ambitions at this point?
Yeah, let's see if he answers the question. Let's see if he answers the question, because it's a point where you cannot leave.
Well, Martha, I think the Strait of Hormuz would then reopen. There's no question that Iran...
Hey, everybody. The senator thinks it's just going to be magical. The senator thinks that the Strait is just going to reopen and everything's going to be fun and exciting and wonderful. And isn't it going to be wild? Hey, everybody. The senator thinks that we can negotiate with the mullahs. We can't negotiate them. We have them at their weakest point right now. Their weakest point right now. And we're talking about just getting out of this thing. So what happens? Tell me, what happens when they decide to start bombing people? Which they will. How many people have we lost because of the Iranians and their terrorist states and everything else? It's not like they've learned their lesson. We killed the grand leader and his wife and his daughter-in-law and his little kid, his little granddaughter. Imagine if someone did that to you. You're not going to be making peace with them, are you? I don't think so. I know so. And this is the best that the Democrats can come up with. Van Hollen saying, well, we're just going to go back to the way it is. By the way, we've been playing this clip, and we'll play it for you again, but let me just break this down to you before the hour's over. This is what the Democratic Socialist agenda is. Reparations, abolish ICE, defund the Department of War, prosecute U.S. and Israeli leaders responsible for the genocide in Gaza. Oh, they're not really mentioning anything about what happened on October 7th. Defund the police and end prisons. By the way, there's a gentleman, and maybe he's in his car right now. I believe his name was Matt or Mark, that I ran into yesterday at the Idaho Patriot Thunder. And this gentleman takes a break and goes out and listens to us for about an hour and a half in his car. I hope you're listening right now, sir. Thank you for your service. Amnesty for the illegals, public ownership of the largest corporations, abolish the Senate, abolish the presidency, abolish the Supreme Court. So how would we govern? It would be what? Everything run by the House? And you would abolish the presidency, abolish the Senate. I don't know how you would fund everything. And apparently I guess they're talking about, making everything like Mandami land.
Here's how it will work. Once a month, our 5 city-run grocery stores will set prices for this core set of goods at 30% below typical retail prices. No exceptions, no gimmicks. The savings will last for the entire month. That means no weekly fluctuations nor sticker shock at the checkout line.
So he's starting his grocery store. Never mind the attacks and everything else. It's all Mandami land. Never mind the United States of America. We're going to go back to reparations, abolishing ICE. So now think about this logically for a minute. If we're defunding the Department of War, then what's going to stop anybody from coming to get us? Even if we have the Department of War, what's going to stop the bad people? Again, it goes back to the Larry Miller axiom. If they had a brain, they would be dangerous. So we're going to defund the police and end prisons. So how do you have a society based on law and order? I guess you don't. And this is a boon to the Republicans. By the way, apparently the Democrat National Committee is so broke that they're asking their vendors if they can delay payments until the November elections. I'm not kidding. The Republicans flush with cash, but you've got affordability, you've got the war, you've got the president calling everybody out. So it really is. This should be a Democratic blue tsunami. I think it's going to be a toss-up, especially when you hear this clip.
The two-party duopoly, the two corporate parties, it is aimed at both of them, and it comes from the working class.
So should Van Jones and Rahm Emanuel and James Carville and all of the establishment Democrats be worried about DSA plans from within their tent?
The establishment Democrats should be worried about the voters and about what the voters think and about what the constituency thinks. And right now they have not been delivering, and our candidates are and have been, and it's resonating with voters.
So Jamie Harrison, who was the DNC chair, after you guys had such a big night in New York City and knocking off some of those incumbents and having success with your candidates in the congressional primaries, he said, if you hate the Democratic Party, then don't run for nomination. Don't use our resources. Don't rely on our volunteers. Don't use our infrastructure. Focus on building the party you actually support. Other Democrats out there saying this is a separate party, the DSA. You don't belong within the party. How do you respond to his statements there?
Yeah, I mean, the two parties have, over years and decades, created a system where ballot line access is extremely difficult for third parties. I also have been told a lot of times by Democrats, don't vote third party, it's wasting your vote. So we run on the Democratic ballot line where it makes sense. We run independents sometimes where that is a viable possibility, but it's a ballot line. And what matters is what the voters think, and the voters are overwhelmingly choosing our candidates.
They certainly did in New York and in other places, Colorado and others. It's not just a big city phenomenon or just a blue coastal phenomenon. Okay, so we're going to put up on the screen a few of the things that are part of your platform, and I want to ask you, just give me sort of a true or false on these. Abolish the Senate.
True.
Okay, replace the presidency and Supreme Court as we now know them.
Yep.
Abolish ICE.
Absolutely.
Abolish borders and give amnesty to anyone currently in the U.S. illegally.
As a long-term plan, yep.
Defund the Pentagon.
Absolutely.
Abolish prisons, at least in large part.
Yeah, again, that as part of a long-term program, yeah.
Okay, so no prisons. Government or public ownership of most large corporations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so then let's go back through some of those then. Abolish the Senate. There are people who are in the Senate now who are very supportive of...
There we have it. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And again, repeating our top story right now, especially, again, if you're listening to the 9 a.m. hour, if you're listening to the 5 a.m. hour, hopefully this will have been taken care of. But because of the excessive fires, ID4 is closed in both directions between Baker City and Ontario due to wildfire. Avoid the area. There are no local detours. So that is from the Oregon Department of Transportation, which has issued that about an hour ago. You take a look at the images, just heartbreaking when you think of the fire going on. Let's see, US 26 is closed just east of Prineville, and milepost 38 to the John Day River at the junction of Oregon 19 and milepost 98. And again, Eastern Oregon is on fire, and Idaho, to a degree, is on fire as well as we deal with the smoke. As I've said before, would it be, I mean, we do have the interagency fire people. I'm sure they're doing their great job right now, do the best job coordinating everything, but shouldn't we have some state officials talking about air quality as opposed to just leaving it to the media? Maybe everybody's on vacation. I don't know. Maybe they are. And by the way, you just have to wonder when you have people saying that stuff they don't know anything about, that we're running out of munitions. A lot going on today. Fox News 580 KIDO is next. Do want to thank our friends at Winterworld Boise, winterworldboise.com, for sponsoring this portion of the program. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. Keep you updated on the Iranian situation. Ceasefire holding. Stocks are, I guess, holding as well, and the air is just very, very challenging to breathe. By the way, also, as you heard, the Seattle Food Festival shooting continues to resonate as well. When we're looking at throughout the state of Idaho, the battle for, as some would call it, reproductive freedom versus the right to life continues. With this Prop 1 initiative, we had our friend Tom Luna talking a little bit about it last hour, about the fight to save lives in Idaho. The ballot measure will be on the ballot after the organizers gathered a record number of signatures. Apparently over 110,000 submitted, with tens of thousands validated. Would establish a statutory right to reproductive freedom and privacy. It would legalize abortions up to the point of fetal viability, with the exceptions for medical emergencies afterward, and include protections related to contraceptive IV and related care, effectively rolling back Idaho's abortion ban, if you will, as we call it, the Defensive Right of Life Act, which has been in place. We take a look at the groups coming together. Pro-life groups such as Idaho Chooses Life and the Foundation to Abolish Abortion, and conservative activists are framing it as a radical expansion beyond pre-Roe standards, which you just heard. So again, I'm looking at this where people are going back and forth on this issue. You've got to take a look at what it all means. Has the state suffered, or have we saved lives? This has to be the one big issue, if you will. Is it bigger than eliminating proposals of getting rid of property taxes or wildlife management? The bottom line here is Prop 1 is the story to watch. And you have a lot of people in the pro-life community believing that they're going to be outgunned. I believe that they're going to surprise a lot of people. You're going to have a lot of people that are going to go on and on and on with this issue. And you're going to have a lot of spending going on and on and on about it. But if you'd like to sound off, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. A lot of people thought the weed would come in. Newsweek magazine used to have this thing called conventional wisdom. And they called it the CW index. And who was up, who was down. And it was fascinating to watch. It was fascinating to take a look at. It was fascinating. And every week you wanted to see who was up and who was down. But when we look at Prop 1, this is going to be the defining moment for the state. Other issues as well. People are reacting to the president's speech. You have people on CNN very mad, very angry.
The First Lady was not there. It was also the first time President Trump ever attended the White House Correspondents' Dinner as president. With us now, CNN's chief media analyst, Brian Stelter. Stelter, good morning to you. My question here is anybody surprised? Is anybody who was there surprised by what he said? Any surprise that the reaction that it received in the room? I mean, if you were to ask AI, how's the White House Correspondents' Dinner going to go? This is probably what you'd get back.
Well, a couple of things about that. You know, Trump did flop, and he knew he was flopping in real time, and he tried to joke his way out of how badly it was going, and even that failed, too. So,
well, this guy is a flopper. Of course he's going to say that. But at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, you go back to what the president said. Did he say anything misleading? Well, he talked about Bobby Kennedy, actually. You're going to love this one. Robert Kennedy killing the cow that they used for the steaks at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Most notably, you ever have a, well, don't tell me what you think, tell me what you feel moment? And the President of the United States basically just said, this is how I feel about everybody. And now you're going to have people going toe-to-toe with the comments that he made about Caitlin Collins. What did he do? Is elevated Caitlin Collins. And Caitlin Collins is a reporter from CNN, and she's had a meteoric rise, an unprecedented rise. How is that? You ever have anybody in your building or your career or whatever that all of a sudden they're the rising star? Others that have worked forever to get that promotion, and it just doesn't seem to happen. So Caitlin Collins was an intern at the Daily Caller. CNN liked her. Chris Wright, who eventually got fired, decided to hire her full-time, create a show for her. And again, with all due respect, very talented young lady. But in politics, you know, the older you get, the better you are. That's when people say that, well, we should take a look at age limits on politicians. As long as they're functioning cognitively, the old people are always going to be better because they have the life experiences. They have the ability to sit back and look at things in a proper perspective. Now, again, Caitlin Collins is going to get a book deal out of this. Already, she's probably going to be renewed by CNN, and the president decided to take a shot, and let's take a listen.
Personally congratulate CNN's Caitlin Collins on receiving her award. It was all about me. It's a fake. She shouldn't get the award. It was a fake, but I didn't mind. I said, Caitlin, congratulations. But it was fake. There's no question about it. But she's a young, attractive woman. She never smiles. I said, Caitlin, do you ever smile? Smile. You have a nice position. You're at CNN Fake News. You should be a happy person. So smile, Caitlin. Just smile. But we attack, and I thought Caitlin had really made it big with a major new sponsorship. But then I informed her that it wasn't her on the Bud Light can. It was Dylan Mulvaney. And Dylan Mulvaney cost Bud Light $35 billion.
Wow. With analysis and commentary, Tea Party Bob joins us at 580-KIDO. Here he is, TPB. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Miller. You know, I listened to the president's conversation with the liberal idiots in the audience. I didn't think that they were going to be very receptive, and indeed they weren't. But so much for that, and so much to talk about today. It's a little time to do it. Let me start with the smoke you're sucking in this morning. You want to know why we have so much smoke in our state? Just think about the 40 years of mismanagement by the U.S. Forest Service that restricted logging and grazing in our forests. So now we have so many overgrown forests that the problem has become insurmountable. Logging used to be a way of life here in the mountains, but as usual, government and their rules and regulations destroyed that industry. I always say, be careful what you wish for. You might just get it. And conservationists used to scream about the spotted owl in Idaho. Problem is, later on, we found out the spotted owl isn't even indigenous to our state. You know, I have said many times that people no longer do any homework on anything that is controversial, but instead look to the sound bites on TikTok, Google, Instagram, Facebook, and, of course, the liberal media. You know, the leftist conservationists cheer these fires until it is their homes that are in danger. Then they want to know why it happened, but never blame themselves. You know, look at what is happening in our big cities, the blue states. There is a big push for socialism in the Democratic Party. We literally live today in a world clouded with propaganda and misinformation, where the truth is buried and the lies are continually repeated over and over. Just like our forests were allowed to get overgrown and become a danger, we are looking at a greater danger today, and that is this movement toward socialism. Anyone who thinks this movement is not real had better take a harder look, as the DSA has endorsed 29 House candidates this cycle. And while it doesn't appear that there are any running for Senate, it's because the electorate is statewide in the Senate, and the seats are more subject to diversification of people. So why do you think they want to abolish the Senate? Because that's the only answer to whatever happens in the House. It is the House that is fertile ground for these candidates popping up in districts heavily populated in poorer segments of our big cities. You know, these are the people who think that the game is rigged against them. They see themselves as the have-nots, and they have been convinced that it is the big fault of the corporations and the wealthy. When it is those very people who pay the majority of the taxes, provide them with opportunities to work, to get free medical care and even food. They listen to the educated shills of the world, the 20 and 30-somethings who went to college and graduated with degrees that don't help them get a job, so we find them becoming the activists for this new move towards socialism. These are the same people screaming for cheap rent, free transportation, free health care, and just about free everything. These are the same new socialists who voted for Biden, whose policies killed our economy with their open borders, climate change, and free spending, giving us a 21.5% inflation over 4 years. Wonder why things are so expensive? I mean, they want to know why it's unaffordable? Look back at who you had for the previous 4 years, for crying out loud. You know, in comes Trump again, the billionaire president, and they go bonkers, blaming him for the problems Biden caused. We have too many 20 and 30-somethings who have huge college debt with useless degrees that inhibit them from getting good jobs. In my opinion, it is our public education system, with its abundance of liberal teachers and professors, that are ultimately responsible for today's problems. I don't have much else, my friend. I got to keep the smoke out of here, so I got everything closed up today. Can't even see Brundage Mountain.
Pretty bad. Pretty bad.
Be careful down there, my friend. You suck enough of this smoke and you know what'll happen.
What's that?
You'll get lung cancer, for crying out loud.
All right, Tea Party Bob, thank you for the call. Phone number's here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. I want to share with you something that it's why we fight in the war in Iran. It's something that we wanted to talk a little bit about before, and we're going to air this in its entirety. This is a speech by Senator Sheehy of Montana.
Remains from the war zone, and that process happens beginning in the war zone through Dover to the hometown of our fallen heroes. I participated in many of those ceremonies myself, to include carrying friends of mine off the plane. One of those is on this bracelet. He was cut in half by an Iranian EFP. This regime that we are fighting does not care about our partisan politics. They don't care who you voted for, who you pray to, or where you live. They want to kill all of us. And they don't just say it, they actually do it. And they've been doing it for 47 years. This is a war of choice. The Democrats are correct. It's a war of choice that was begun by a radical, lunatic band of terrorists that took over a beautiful nation 47 years ago. Took it over with brutality, force, and savagery. And the second they took it over, they didn't free their people. They didn't unleash the largest oil reserves in the world to build schools and bridges. They took it over to murder their own people and to spread their disgusting ideology across the world, and that is exactly what they have been doing. They don't just say it and talk about it. You don't have to believe what they say. You can simply watch what they've done. They have attacked families, women, children, innocent people. They don't just attack them and kill them. They rape them. They skin them alive on camera. They celebrate it. They honor those people who do disgusting things that we would put in jail for the rest of their lives in this country. And they do it for fun, and they pay them money to do it, and they're heroes to that nation. They've done it to friends of mine. They've done it to families who've been in this chamber. And the fact that we sit here and listen to elected officials of this country defend these lunatics who want us all dead. They want all of you dead. They want all of us dead. They don't want us to disappear with a snap of a finger. They want us to be raped, burned alive, and cut into pieces. Watch the video from October 7th. That's what they want to happen from Maine to San Diego, from Seattle to Miami. They want this country turned into a burning husk of its former self. And you don't have to theorize that. That's what they do. From the 1983 barracks bombing, where 280 Marines were vaporized in the morning, from USS Cole to the Achille Laurel to every terrorist attack, from the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas. These are not humanitarian freedom organizations. They are death-dealing cults, and they want all of us to die brutal deaths. William Buckley was abducted in 1985, an American military officer. He was skinned alive on camera by the Iranians. American prisoners of war who were captured. They were never called prisoners of war because they were captured by lunatic terrorists, so they were not subject to the Geneva Convention. They were captured and murdered, power drills through their brains. This is in Iraq. These are families that have dealt with this, and they've never gotten a single dime. These families have never gotten restitution, and not a single president has ever stood up to them. Love Donald Trump or hate him. Love his policies, hate ICE, love ICE, whatever. There's never been a single president who has stood up to Iran and hit back. For 47 years, our troops and our families have been absorbing attack after attack after attack all over the world. And their radical ideology does not stop at the Persian Gulf. It doesn't stop at Tel Aviv. They want to do this everywhere. It's a global radical ideology. And we've been fighting it for half a century. We didn't start this war. We did not, but we will finish it. And forever wars are not popular with anybody these days. Both sides of that, I love to attack our forever wars. And I can promise you, being someone overseas wearing the uniform, when you're fighting for your country, you don't care what party's in office, but you're fighting to defend your country. And you turn on the news and see your elected officials stabbing you in the back, telling you that you're failing, that you failed every goal of the war, is what I just heard. Last time I checked, we've wiped these bastards out. An occasional missile strike and boats in the straits, that's not military strength. Those are the flailings of a failing empire. Those are the flailings of a nation in collapse because they deserve it. So I encourage our colleagues on both sides of the aisle, whatever's politically convenient, whatever plays well on Twitter or Facebook, think about the people who are deployed right now, standing on that wall with a loaded weapon, who have volunteered to defend our country and our way of life. Because they are there defending us in a just war. Because we did not start a war with the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. They started it with us 47 years ago, and their attacks have gone unanswered for half a century. It's time to fix this problem and make sure another generation of Americans does not have to fight this murderous, savage adversary. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Sheehy from a couple weeks ago of Montana, Tim Sheehy. Concerned, good morning, you're on 580 KIDO.
Good morning, Kevin. Yeah, what a sobering deal, and what the truth. You know, this is what fake media needs to listen to, because this guy is dead on. This is a regime that wants to destroy us. They want to kill us. And, you know, and we say Islam all the time, and, you know, Islam is the bad guy. But I'll tell you, when David Koresh and some of those other people, Jim Jones and stuff, under the name of Christianity, what they did, we as Christians condemned it because it was wrong and it wasn't Christian. And when the Muslims start standing up and denouncing this Islam thing and start fighting against it, we'll win that battle. But right now, it's all believe the lies. But the reason I really called was just the consequences. People, these fires and stuff are the consequence of what we do. People make decisions and they never listen to the consequences. What's going to happen in the future. They just want what they want right now. It's kind of like abortion. There's consequences to, I can't believe how many, ways that a woman has to protect herself from getting pregnant out there available. But hey, if they decide they want a baby, it's not a life to them. They just want to kill it. And it's just a shame because there's no consequences to having sex unprotected and getting pregnant, and they just don't want to deal with that consequence. And that's what's wrong with this whole country. No consequences to anything. So many don't believe that God has consequences, and there's going to be a judgment day. And I don't want to get too preachy, but we better think about that. Our forefathers knew it, and we need to really concentrate on that. But we really need to see that there's consequences to our actions, everything we do. When we make decisions, there's so many communist countries that made the decision to go communist, and now they're like whining because they're stuck in a rut. Well, there's consequences to doing it. And the United States better really watch it, what they're doing, buying into this social and communist type of stuff going on, because there's going to be some serious consequences, and it's been proven. Just read your history, look out there, see what's going on. So my thing is just educate yourself, like Tea Party Bob said, educate yourself, look at, don't believe the lie, keep on doing the research. It's kind of like over and over again, they keep on saying, oh, the president went into Iran, or he went in Iran with no plan. No, his plan was perfectly stated out. We want to make sure they have no nuclear weapon and they have no ability to attack us. That was the mission. That is the mission, and we did it, and we did it successful with minimal damage. People should be cheering about that. And like that gentleman said that you were playing the speech, we did a good thing. And people sit there and go, oh, he had no intentions. He has no plan. Oh, he had a plan all along. He had a plan all along, and it was to stop them from having the ability to nuke us or do that. And he's continuing that plan until he frees up all the nuclear weapon stuff that they can't continue to create when some Democrat gets in and gives them money over and over again to rebuild. It's just a shame. But God bless your show, Kevin. It's just the only outlet we have to listen to other people that are like-minded. And we just like the show and listen to it, and God bless it.
Thank you, Concern. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. Just so powerful, the words of Senator Sheehy. We've been holding that for a while, and not so much as, we've been doing that deliberately, but we want to make sure we had enough time for it. By the way, if you follow me on X, thank you, Glenn in Napa. I just reposted that speech, but you don't hear anyone in the media describing this. And brutally, what those people have done to Americans. What those people have done. All we hear from, Fox News, they used to have this slogan, fair and balanced. Well, where's that with everybody else? Why haven't we relitigated what those people have done to Americans, our countrymen? Yes, you're right. We don't want to lose people, but to call this war unnecessary? No one's had enough guts to do this except the president. I don't think this thing is over yet. And here we have Mike Waltz, the UN ambassador, making the case.
Well, remember, the IRGC controls 40 to 50% of the Iranian economy. What you've seen in the last 13 days are strikes particularly focused on Iran's terrorist activities attacking civilian shipping, ships from Singapore, Cyprus, all over the world that have done nothing to Iran. That's been condemned in the United Nations. You hear a lot about our allies and countries not being with us. A record 146 have stood with us in condemning those activities. Shannon, you have to ask yourself, is a country winning that has little speedboats running around? I mean, these are like, I don't know, the Somali pirates with cruise missiles and drones. These are acts of desperation. The Iranian regime is isolated, economically devastated, militarily devastated. And I really appreciated the clip that you just played talking about the suffering that is going on internally. Inflation is spiking. The currency is tanking, foreign currency reserves are gone, and we're starting to see the Iranian government even not be able to pay its own workers and even its own military.
Well, it's no wonder these folks want to negotiate. Now, again, it's just like having the crazy uncle. Sometimes you want to cut a deal. And it's the right deal to make. It's the deal that makes the most sense. Unfortunately, when we're looking at this at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, when we take a look at the Iranian economy, we don't hear about it. We don't hear how bad things are. We don't hear how they're challenged. All we hear about is how bad things are with us, and then we have people getting on, the media going, well, we're running out of missiles. Gee, and maybe you get tired of the analogy, but I'm glad these guys weren't around during the big one, where they could sit back and they could tell us, well, it doesn't look good after Pearl Harbor, it doesn't look good after Normandy. What the president is defined is we don't really have a choice. And I would put Tim Sheehy, Senator Sheehy, on the road everywhere. I would put him on every show possible based on that speech. Because Americans need to know this. The young people, maybe it's on TikTok, maybe it's everywhere else. I got it because I follow Scott Jennings. If you follow me at Kevin Miller Show, you'll get it. But that's what people should be talking about. That's what people should be hearing, what Tim Sheehy had to say. I could loop that thing for 4 hours of this program. And instead, what do we get?
Some version of, ironically enough, this year. And Republicans think that their one chance is the image of the Democratic Party. We've been seeing it in the primary season. Socialists winning Democratic primaries, candidates from the far left. And look at this here. Among Democrats, this is that Fox poll, a majority have a favorable view of socialism. Step outside the Democratic Party, it's a totally different world. Look at independence, socialism, deeply unpopular there. So is that a vulnerability for Democrats that would keep them from capitalizing on Trump's obvious weaknesses here? Look more specifically at the two chambers.
And there we have it from NBC News. It's not about socialism. And it's easier said than done, but doing the right thing is a challenge. Doing the right thing and saving civilization is a challenge. It's like everybody else. You can watch things happen, wonder what the heck happened, or you make things happen. And that's really what it comes down to. Now, again, does the president help or hurt himself when he does his act with the media? Sometimes it's like the Animal House rule of everything. If you're having a bad day and you're of a certain age, it's not a family-friendly movie. It's not a movie you should watch with the kids, but it's a classic. National Lampoon's Animal House. When you're on double secret probation and Dean Wormer is out to get you, and if you do not know any type of these references I'm mentioning, you need to watch that movie. Sometimes you just got to roll, and that's what we're doing on the right side, proudly. Playing Buck, Sean, Lars, Glenn, and George. God bless you all. Keep the faith. Kevin Miller loves you.